Hi, welcome back guys. This is your sensei, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Naruto Had Sukuna's Cursed Energy? Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. During the second phase of the Chunin exams, Naruto set off alone in a quest to earn Sakura's approval, aiming to obtain a scroll by himself. This decision led him to be ambushed by 6 hidden rain ninjas. As he found himself on the brink of defeat, he was suddenly pulled into a mysterious red room, where a giant man sat on a throne made of skulls. The man introduced himself as Ryomen Sukuna and demanded to know what Naruto wanted. When Naruto responded defiantly, Sukuna warned him that if he wished to live, he should plead for help. Despite the dire situation, Naruto refused to beg, choosing instead to stand his ground. Sukuna, amused by Naruto's spirit, decided to grant him a chance. Instead of taking over Naruto's body, Sukuna offered him all his power and memories. As Sukuna transferred his essence to Naruto, the young ninja was overwhelmed by the dark memories of Sukuna's past. Sukuna remarked that Naruto was fortunate, as his next reincarnation would not be as lucky. With that, Sukuna vanished. Back in the real world, the hidden rain ninjas laughed at what they thought was Naruto's lifeless body. To their shock, Naruto stood up, defying their expectations. They were baffled, wondering how he had survived the Senbon that should have incapacitated him. Ignoring their confusion, Naruto told them to be quiet and expressed his annoyance at their noise. One of the ninjas suggested finishing him off, but Naruto offered them a final chance to kneel and spare themselves. When they refused, he swiftly dispatched them with a powerful attack, leaving them in disbelief. As he stood over them, Naruto pondered the lack of emotion he felt after defeating them, realizing it was likely due to Sukuna's influence. He expelled the Senbon from his body and healed himself before deciding to search for his teammates, taking the Rain Ninja's scrolls with him. After a while of running, Naruto stumbled upon Sakura being overwhelmed by the sound genin. Hidden in the bushes, Team Guy and Tenten observed the scene. While Naruto hesitated, reflecting on how much he had changed, he would have rushed in to save her before. Lee wanted to help, but Niji advised him to wait and see what Sakura had learned from their teacher, Kakashi. However, they were disappointed to see that she was struggling against the Otonin. In a moment of chaos, Zaku unleashed an attack that endangered Kin, who was being possessed by Ino. Shikamaru and Choji intervened, taking the hit for her, but they were defeated. Lee also fell victim to Dosu's sound waves. Suddenly, a dark aura enveloped the area as Uchiha Sasuke awakened, his body radiating a menacing purple chakra. Sakura felt a mix of excitement and concern for Sasuke, noticing the strange markings on his skin. Sasuke, with a manic smile reminiscent of their previous enemy, inquired about Sakura's condition. Zaku arrogantly claimed responsibility for her state, threatening Sasuke with a similar fate. As Zaku prepared to attack, Naruto's eyes glowed red, and he released a powerful surge of energy that froze the other genin in fear. In an instant, he appeared beside Sasuke, surprising everyone with the intensity of his presence. Naruto dismissed the fallen leaf genin as pathetic for failing to defeat their opponents despite their numbers. Turning to Sasuke, Naruto questioned the markings on his body. Sasuke felt paralyzed, doubting his strength despite the power he had received. When Naruto demanded an answer, Sasuke shivered under his gaze. Sakura stammered an explanation about Orochimaru's involvement, which only fueled Naruto's anger toward the Sannin. Naruto then addressed Sasuke directly, asking who would win in a fight between them. Sasuke reluctantly acknowledged Naruto's strength, which earned him a playful ruffle of his hair. Naruto then commanded Zaku and Dosu to kneel, and they complied, horrified by the destruction around them. Naruto reflected on how he hadn't given them enough motivation to submit earlier, a sinister smile forming on his face as he reveled in his newfound power. Shikamaru pondered if Naruto had been hiding his true nature all along. Naruto addressed the Sound Ninja, stating that as a reward for kneeling, he would allow them to live. They felt relieved to hear this. However, Naruto added that he needed to teach them a lesson first, appearing suddenly behind Zaku. He seized Zaku's arms and placed his foot on his back, a dark smile crossing his face as he remarked on Zaku's pride in his arms. Zaku cried out in pain as Naruto dislocated his arms. Afterward, Naruto walked away from the sound team, telling them they were free to go. Dosu quickly gathered his teammates, and they vanished. Naruto then turned his attention to the Leaf Genin, warning them to get stronger or risk being trampled. His eyes returned to normal, and the Leaf Genin felt a wave of relief wash over them as Naruto ceased releasing his curse energy. He healed Team 10 and Lee as a reward for their protection. Ino and Lee regained consciousness moments later. Naruto declared it was time to leave, but then he knocked Sasuke out with a punch to the gut, causing Sasuke's marks to recede. Ino yelled in confusion about why Naruto had attacked Sasuke. Shikamaru, with a serious expression, urged her to be quiet and not provoke Naruto. Naruto warned Ino to heed Shikamaru's advice if she wanted to avoid a fate similar to the trees he had damaged. Naruto created 2 clones to carry his teammates and bid farewell before vanishing. Niji and Tenten emerged from the bushes, surprised by Naruto's dangerous display. Shikamaru remarked on the unexpected threat Naruto posed. Niji contemplated the dark power emanating from Naruto and Sasuke. After a brief pause, Team Guy departed, and Team 10 took a moment to rest before heading to the tower. Naruto and his clones made their way there swiftly, arriving without incident. Inside, they found a scroll hanging from the wall, which Sakura began to read aloud. The scroll spoke of acquiring wisdom and training the body to prepare for challenges, hinting at a secret way to guide them from their current location. Sakura noted that a word seemed to be missing, suggesting they should open the scrolls now. Naruto retrieved the Heaven and Earth scrolls from his opponents and opened them. The scrolls erupted into smoke, and as it cleared, a familiar figure emerged. Sakura recognized Irika, who greeted them with a smile. Naruto informed Irika that Sasuke had been knocked out, while Sakura hesitated to mention the details, not wanting to anger Naruto. Instead, Naruto explained that Sasuke had been bitten by Orochimaru, causing Irika's eyes to widen at the mention of the former Sannin. He quickly examined Sasuke's neck, spotting the curse mark, and decided he needed to inform the Hokage. Irika led the 3 into the tower and took Sasuke to the medical staff before leaving to report the situation. When Team 7 arrived, they found Team 8 and the Sand Team had already made it. Naruto hoped the next exam would be more entertaining. A few days later, the second phase of the exams concluded, with the teams that advanced being Team 7, 8, and 10, Guy's team, the Sound Team, the Sand Team, and Kabuto's team. The teams gathered in an arena, with the Hokage addressing the Genin and their Jounin senseis behind him. Hiruzen explained that the Chunin exams were designed not only to test ninjas but also to foster friendships and assess the levels of ninjas across nations. Gaara, eager for details, interrupted, expressing his readiness for any challenge. The Hokage then announced the specifics of the 3rd exam. Heiei, the proctor, stepped forward and requested to speak first, explaining the need for preliminary matches due to the large number of participants. Despite initial outrage, he justified it by emphasizing the presence of important nobles and the desire to showcase only the best shinobi. The preliminaries would commence immediately, and Heiei warned that those not in peak physical condition should withdraw. Kabuto chose to give up, but no one else followed suit. Sakura wished for Sasuke to withdraw, but he insisted that he fought to test himself against the best. Sasuke declared that whether he became a Chunin or not was irrelevant, his goal was to challenge himself. Sakura expressed her concern, unable to bear the thought of watching him suffer. Sasuke dismissed her worries, asserting that it was his choice to fight. Naruto playfully pointed out that Sakura cared about him and that he didn't need to be so harsh. Sasuke, however, had his eyes set on Naruto, thinking that he was the one he wanted to fight the most. Heiei explained that the preliminaries would consist of sudden death elimination matches, with only the winners advancing to the 3rd exam. The rules were simple. The fights would continue until one competitor conceded or was unable to continue. Heiei assured everyone that he would intervene if necessary to prevent serious harm. Enko activated a panel on the wall, revealing a screen that would randomly select the names of the competitors for the first preliminary match. All eyes turned to the screen, anticipation building as the names began to appear. Only the versus remained constant, marking the match between Yoroi Akado and Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke smirked as he read the names, thinking that they hadn't wasted any time. The curse mark on his body stung, causing him to flinch and grasp the source of the pain, yet he maintained his smirk, filled with anticipation for the fight ahead. Yoroi's expression was concealed by his mask, and he spoke in a dull voice, expressing his readiness for the match. Sakura felt a wave of anxiety wash over her as she realized it was Sasuke who had to fight. Meanwhile, the other ninjas observed Sasuke from the corners of their eyes. Gaara, Rock Lee, Dosu, Zu, and Niji were all curious to see what the last survivor of the Uchiha clan could do. The fight promised to be captivating. The proctor, Hayate, called the two competitors forward. Sasuke and Yoroi stepped out of line and stood before him. Yoroi's appearance was largely hidden by his mask, sunglasses, and forehead protector, which he wore like a bandana. His attire consisted of a high-collared, sleeveless purple shirt layered over a short-sleeved white one, complemented by purple pants, blue sandals, and fingerless gloves. Standing before the proctor, the two leaf ninjas faced each other. Hayate announced their match, asking if there were any objections. Sasuke casually replied that he had none, and Yoroi gruffly echoed the sentiment. The male sound sensei smiled at the unfolding events, while Kakashi's expression remained hidden behind his mask. As the two competitors stared each other down, Sakura resigned herself to watching the match unfold. Ino, observing Sasuke, sensed something was off about him. Dosu wondered if it was the curse mark affecting Sasuke. Rock Lee wished Sasuke luck, eager for the chance to fight him again, while Niji anticipated the display of skill from another wielder of a legendary dojutsu. Gaara, though silent, shared the curiosity about the match's outcome. Sasuke stood there, the curse mark continuing to sting him as he tried to mask the pain. Yoroi noticed the struggle but kept his thoughts to himself. Hayate then drew everyone's attention, announcing the start of the match and instructing everyone except the two competitors to clear the area. With the medic ninja and the last two competitors out of the way, Hayate sighed and announced the next match. The screen flashed, revealing the names of the next competitors: Shino Aburame vs. Zaku Abumi. Zaku chuckled, overconfident despite his injuries, as he scanned the room for his opponent. Shino remained silent, observing Zaku and calculating how best to trap him. The sound sensei exchanged a strange smile with Shino's sensei, who glared back. Hayate called for the two candidates to step forward, and they complied. As they stood facing each other, Sakura recognized Zaku as the sound shinobi who had suffered injuries from Naruto. She wondered how he would manage to fight with his arms in such condition. Hinata, feeling gloomy, asked if Shino would be alright, to which Kiba assured her that he was confident in Shino's abilities, despite his serious tone. Hayate confirmed that the candidates were ready and stepped back to avoid the fight. With no objections, he declared the match to begin. Both combatants remained still, waiting for the other to make the first move. Shino warned Zaku that if he fought him, he wouldn't be able to recover, suggesting he forfeit. Zaku frowned but replied that they would see. As Zaku crouched into a fighting stance, he prepared to charge forward, declaring that one arm was more than enough to defeat Shino. As Zaku rushed at him, Shino remained perfectly still, raising his left arm to block the attack. Zaku boasted that Shino couldn't defeat him even if he used both arms. Shino calmly stated that it was simply the truth. Zaku then activated his technique, pulling air into a tiny hole in his palm. He shouted the name of his attack, and an explosion erupted where they stood. As the dust settled, Zaku smirked, believing his plan had succeeded, while Shino lay motionless on the ground. Kiba and Hinata gasped at the sight, with Kiba's eyes twitching in shock and Hinata feeling worried for their teammate. The spectators watched in silence, unable to hear any signs of struggle from Shino, who appeared to be affected by the blast. Zaku, feeling triumphant, clenched his fist and called out to Shino with a smug expression. Shino had risen to his feet after taking the full force of the attack, albeit hunched over with his head down. Zaku, confused, watched as Shino began to straighten up, the dust settling around them. To everyone's shock, Shino appeared to be alright, though a bit ruffled and dirty from the blast that had knocked him off his feet. Team 8 felt a wave of relief wash over them at his apparent safety. Suddenly, a sound filled the air, a chittering noise that grew louder, echoing throughout the room. Sakura looked around, puzzled by the strange sound. Zaku soon discovered the source of the noise, gasping at the unsettling sight before him. The chittering came from Shino, or rather, from the swarm of tiny black beetles crawling over his face and clothes, emerging from small holes near his glasses. Zaku's mind raced in panic. He thought to himself that Shino was like a human hive, and he felt a surge of anger as he prepared for another fight. He sarcastically remarked on the unsettling display, but Shino remained silent, his expression unreadable. Meanwhile, Naruto observed Shino's clever strategy. He realized that Shino had used the dust cloud to mask the movement of his bugs, allowing them to surround Zaku unnoticed. As Zaku sensed something behind him, he turned to see a swarm of beetles closing in, covering the ground and scuttling toward him. Fear gripped him as he realized he was cornered. Shino, now revealing his mouth, explained that the beetles were a rare species of parasitic insects that attacked in swarms, draining their prey's chakra. He warned Zaku that an army of this size could incapacitate him in less than a minute. Zaku glared at Shino, filled with hatred and determination. Shino pointed out that Zaku's only option was to forfeit the match. If he used his good arm to fight Shino, the bugs would overwhelm him from behind. Conversely, if he tried to fend off the beetles, Shino would attack. The situation was dire, and everyone could see that Zaku had no way out. Even attempting to escape would lead to his defeat. Shino continued, emphasizing that Zaku's defeat would be inevitable and unpleasant. As he formed hand signs, the chittering of the bugs reminded Zaku that time was running out. He needed to think quickly or face a grim fate. In the depths of his mind, Zaku reflected on his past struggles, the fear and humiliation he had endured. He remembered how he had risen from those dark times, fueled by a desire for strength. The sight of Shino's bugs reignited feelings he thought he had overcome, and Zaku vowed to make Shino pay for this humiliation. As Zaku shook with determination, Naruto noticed the change in him. Zaku's glazed expression flickered as he battled his inner demons, his eyes darting between the bugs and his memories. He clenched his shaking hand, vowing that he would never feel that fear again. With a fierce roar, Zaku moved his fist toward Shino, startling the bug user. He opened his palm, his expression wild with rage. He declared that Shino had made him angry, revealing that he could use his other arm, which had been hidden from view. Zaku's grin widened as he prepared to unleash his power. He shouted that he would blow Shino and the beetles away, his fury palpable. Hinata watched in disbelief, unable to comprehend the transformation unfolding before her eyes. Zaku noticed his arms swelling rapidly, bulging in ways that seemed unnatural. Something was wrong, and he wondered if it was a result of his desire for a bigger explosion. The room filled with the sound of air escaping, a noise reminiscent of balloons stretching to their limits before bursting, as Zaku's previous roars faded into silence. His eyes widened in shock as he listened, staring straight ahead, unable to utter a sound. The pain was lost on him in his disbelief. He couldn't bring himself to look at his arms as blue chakra escaped along with fragments of his own flesh and the wind he had been storing. Flecks of blue and bits of skin appeared before Zaku's eyes, and though small gasps of shock escaped his lips, they were drowned out by the sound of his arms succumbing to the pressure. Dosu and Kin gasped in horror, while Kiba leaned closer, nearly jumping over the railing in shock. Kurenai watched speechless, amazed at what her student had done to his opponent. Zaku cried out in pain once the chakra and air settled. He lowered his arms, which hung limply in front of him, exclaiming in confusion about what was wrong. Groaning as he struggled to catch his breath, he gritted his teeth and turned his palms up to inspect the damage. Upon closer inspection, he saw a small swarm of black beetles gathered tightly inside the holes in his hands, blocking the air from escaping. Meanwhile, on the ground floor where the two ninjas were fighting, Shino appeared behind Zaku, ready to explain his own plan, which had proven far more successful than Zaku's attempt to deceive him. While distracting Zaku with his advice, Shino had sent his little friends to seal the troublesome wind holes in Zaku's hands. He expressed his satisfaction with the success of his strategy, revealing that he had plugged both hands to ensure Zaku's predicament. As Zaku gasped in shock, Shino added humorously that while having an ace in the hole was good, having two was even better. Zaku felt trapped and helpless, rage consuming him as he roared and attempted to swing his arms at Shino, only for Shino to anticipate the move and deflect him away. Zaku landed in a heap on the floor, groaning and unable to rise. Shino and the third proctor approached Zaku, who lay sprawled flat on his back, crying out despite not being touched. The lingering pain from his fall and the impact of Shino's earlier strike weighed heavily on him. The proctor assessed the damage, noting the holes in Zaku's arms, and stood up to deliver his verdict on the match, pausing momentarily as if feeling sympathy for Zaku. The winner was declared to be Shino Aburame. Kurenai wore a serious expression as she processed the outcome, while Kiba smirked proudly at his teammate for reaching the final round of the exam. Beside him, Hinata looked slightly sad, and Kin gritted her teeth in anger, with Dosu seething in fury. On Team Guy, Niji stood up straight, moving away from the railing, dissatisfied with the match. Before he could act, Rock Lee stopped him, questioning how Shino had achieved his victory. Niji remained silent but stepped away from the others to get a clearer view, activating his Byakugan to examine Shino closely. He gasped in surprise at his findings, realizing that Shino's insects were not summoned but lived within him. Rock Lee expressed disbelief at the thought of bugs living inside Shino, while Guy mentioned a legend of a clan of insect tamers from the Leaf Village. Niji confirmed he had heard of the clan, explaining that a bug master enters into a sacred pact with the insects, allowing them to nest in their body in exchange for loyalty and service. He added that the insects could feed on their host's chakra as part of the arrangement. As Shino made his way to join his team on the balcony, medic ninjas arrived to collect Zaku and transport him to the infirmary. Amidst their discussions, the mummy ninja reflected on their shared mission, vowing to even the score for Zaku. On the other side of the room, Kurenai sighed in relief that the match was over, noticing the chilling atmosphere. Naruto remarked on Shino's skill, but Kiba dismissed it, claiming Shino was still weak compared to him. The rookies were surprised when Naruto did not react to Kiba's insult, and Hinata greeted Shino as he rejoined their group, congratulating him on his victory. Kiba commented on their performance with a blunt remark, while Shino huffed in response, expressing his desire to see Kiba and his teammate match their efforts. Kiba felt irritation rise within him, questioning Shino's authority in a silent challenge, but he chose to hold back, aware of the potential consequences. In a dimly lit room illuminated only by candles, Sasuke sat shirtless in the center of a large seal array. Kakashi informed him that the seal he was about to apply would contain the curse mark, but its effectiveness depended on Sasuke's willpower. As Kakashi performed a series of hand signs and initiated the sealing process, Sasuke experienced a surge of pain as the kanji symbols moved across the floor and his body, ultimately surrounding the curse mark before he lost consciousness. Orochimaru emerged from behind a pillar, commenting on Kakashi's growth and his ability to perform the curse sealing. Kakashi, taken aback, demanded to know Orochimaru's intentions. Orochimaru revealed that he had come for Sasuke, expressing envy over Kakashi's Sharingan and hinting at his desire for the power of the Uchiha clan. He explained that the Sound Village was his domain and that to play the game of power, one needed willing pawns. Kakashi questioned whether Sasuke was merely a pawn, to which Orochimaru replied that Sasuke was far more valuable. As Orochimaru stepped towards Sasuke, Kakashi charged a lightning blade, warning him to stay back. Kakashi's determination shone through as he declared that he would protect Sasuke, regardless of Orochimaru's status as one of the legendary Sannin. Orochimaru laughed, acknowledging Kakashi's bravery and foolishness, before departing with a foreboding remark about Sasuke's future quest for power. Once Orochimaru vanished, Kakashi felt a wave of fear wash over him, but he maintained his resolve as he transported Sasuke to the hospital using body flicker. Upon arrival, he appeared behind Naruto, who was eager to see the next match unfold. After ensuring Zaku was out of the way, Hay-8 kept the tournament moving. Naruto eagerly awaited news about Sasuke, but Kakashi reassured him that Sasuke was resting peacefully in the infirmary, though he omitted the detail that Umbu Black Ops were guarding him. As the next match was announced, the names Misumi Tsurugi vs. Kankuro appeared on the screen, prompting Kankuro to feel a surge of excitement. Baki, observing from a distance, cautioned Kankuro silently, aware that underestimating opponents could lead to mistakes. Meanwhile, Gaara regarded his brother with disdain, while Hinata and her team remained tense from the previous match, watching the upcoming fight with serious expressions. Kiba leaned against the railing with Akamaru peeking out, while Shino maintained his usual stoic demeanor, and their sensei appeared grim. Team Guy shared similar expressions, with Guy being the most serious among them. Lee stood beside him, mirroring his focus, while Tenten held onto the railing, not out of nervousness but determination. Niji watched with an air of indifference, as if the match held little significance for him. Kakashi observed the scene with interest, while Sakura and Naruto displayed their own feelings about the match, with Naruto feeling a bit restless and eager to prove himself. Misumi, his face obscured by a mask and forehead protector, warned Kankuro not to underestimate him, despite being older than most of the genin present. Kankuro responded confidently, and Misumi offered a piece of advice, suggesting that Kankuro should concede quickly once he activated his jutsu, promising a swift outcome. Kankuro, undeterred, prepared for the fight by removing the strap from his back, allowing a wrapped figure to fall to the ground with a thud. He smirked at Misumi, ready for the challenge ahead. If ready, the fourth match began, announced Hayate. Kankuro sneered, offering to end the battle quickly. Misumi confidently countered, asserting that he would be the one to end it first as he charged forward. With determination, he aimed a punch at Kankuro's jaw, but the cat-eared ninja blocked it, their arms straining against each other's strength. The spectators were taken aback by what unfolded next. Kankuro watched in surprise as Misumi's arm wrapped around him, positioning himself behind Kankuro and securing his hold around the ninja's head. Kankuro grunted, struggling against the grip that had rendered him immobile. Across the room, Naruto leaned over the rail, captivated by the unusual display. He exclaimed in awe, wondering about Misumi's bizarre flexibility. Sakura observed, thinking that Naruto still had a childish side. As Misumi explained his technique to the struggling Kankuro, he revealed that he had dislocated every joint in his body, allowing him to soften and control his movements with chakra. Sakura leaned in closer, intrigued by the revelation. The two combatants stared each other down, Kankuro continuing to struggle, though it proved futile. Misumi warned him that the more he fought, the tighter the hold would become. He threatened to break Kankuro's neck if he did not surrender, a chilling declaration that only made Kankuro smile and laugh lightly. Misumi, angered by Kankuro's defiance, tightened his grip further. Kankuro, undeterred, assured Misumi that he would be the one to face defeat. This only fueled Misumi's rage, visible through the tension in his muscles. Suddenly, a loud snap echoed through the arena, causing Hayate's eyes to widen. Kankuro's head fell limply, prompting horror from Hinata and concern from Kiba. Shino's eyebrows furrowed in shock, while Lee watched in disbelief. Niji maintained a serious demeanor, and Choji, Shikamaru, and Ino were similarly taken aback. Sakura and Naruto exchanged smirks, believing they had witnessed a grave turn of events. Temari remained stoic, showing no outward signs of grief for her brother, while Dosu glanced at Gaara, who looked down on the scene with indifference. Gaara had previously expressed that he did not regard Kankuro as a brother and would not hesitate to eliminate him if necessary. Kankuro's head continued to droop as Misumi held him up, prompting Rock Lee to mutter that he believed Kankuro had suffered a serious injury. Naruto, however, sensed that Kankuro was still alive. Gaara, confused, wondered why everyone was making such a fuss. Below, Hayate sighed in relief, which irritated Naruto. Misumi, looking at Kankuro, dismissed him as a fool for not surrendering and began to loosen his grip. As he did, a distinct crackling noise filled the air, and pieces of Kankuro's skin flaked off. Misumi jumped at the sudden movement, startled as Kankuro's head turned unnaturally to face him. The face cracked, revealing a wooden texture beneath the fake skin. The puppet, now fully revealed, had 4 arms and jagged teeth, with 3 eyes and a spiky hairstyle. Misumi's eyes widened in realization. Kankuro was a puppet master, and the real ninja had been controlling the puppet all along. Kankuro's hand glowed, connecting chakra lines to the puppet as it moved. Sakura shared this insight with the others, explaining how Kankuro controlled it. The puppet tightened its grip around Misumi, who could only emit strangled cries as the pressure increased. Finally, Misumi surrendered, pleading for the puppet to stop. Kankuro, sounding almost helpful, remarked that being crushed would only make Misumi more flexible. Sakura glanced at Hayate, questioning why he did not stop the match now that Misumi had surrendered. Hayate remained silent, watching intently, relieved he had not interrupted the match prematurely. Soon, it became too much for Misumi, and Kankuro disconnected the strings, causing Misumi to collapse and lose consciousness. Hayate addressed the crowd without hesitation, announcing that Kankuro was the winner since his opponent could not continue. He then informed everyone that there would be a short intermission, encouraging them to take a moment for fresh air or a bathroom break. After dismissing the crowd, he moved to speak with the other proctors and the Hokage. Choji complained about his hunger, pulling out a packet of chips from his pocket and munching on them. Ino grimaced at the sight, scolding him for talking with his mouth full and urging him to eat first. As the next fight was announced, Sakura faced off against Ino, resulting in a draw. Asuma and Kakashi felt embarrassed by their genin's performance, while Tenten and Temari expressed their displeasure, believing that such displays tarnished the reputation of kunoichi. Naruto thought the match was pathetic as he gazed at the screen, which flashed with the familiar digital beeping and characters moving across it. The next match was Tenten vs Temari. Dosu sarcastically remarked about yet another leaf kunoichi, hoping Temari would perform better than the previous fighters. Kin encouraged Temari, expressing confidence in her abilities. Temari smirked, ready to show her skills. She descended to the ground floor, opposite Tenten, who felt energized after watching the previous match. Niji observed the new genin from the Sand Village, intrigued by the upcoming fight. Rock Lee enthusiastically cheered for Tenten, waving his fist in excitement, while Temari's team remained silent, with Gaara appearing bored. As the proctor, Hayate gathered everyone's attention, looking weary as he announced the fifth match, Tenten vs Temari. Each girl stepped forward, Tenten filled with determination while Temari displayed indifference. The room fell silent as they awaited Hayate's signal to begin. With the match officially starting, Temari appeared focused but made no immediate move to attack, catching Tenten off guard. Tenten quickly jumped back, creating space for herself. Lee shouted encouragement, urging Tenten to keep her opponent guessing, while Guy joined in, cheering for her with enthusiasm. The cheering continued as Lee rallied support for Tenten, urging her to give it her all. Shikamaru and his team remained quiet, with Shikamaru yawning at the commotion. The Hokage observed from a distance, noting Tenten's careful positioning as she assessed her opponent. Hayate grew impatient, reminding the girls that the match had started and they could attack. Tenten remained cautious, watching Temari's movements. Temari taunted her, boasting about her skills and challenging Tenten to make the first move. Tenten, feeling provoked, decided to take action. She leaped into the air and threw 4 shurikens at Temari. Dosu raised an eyebrow, unimpressed by Tenten's initial attack. However, he was taken aback when he noticed something unusual about Temari's movement, akin to an afterimage. It became clear that Temari was fast, and as the shurikens fell harmlessly to the ground, Dosu realized she had used wind to evade them. Intrigued, Dosu observed Temari's weaponry, noting the tool attached to her back that likely aided her swift movements. Tenten landed back on the ground, shocked at her missed shot. Temari stood confidently, smirking and taunting Tenten about her aim, suggesting that nerves might have affected her performance. Tenten growled in response, determined to prove herself. Kakashi shook his head, realizing that getting worked up easily was not a good trait for a chunin. Anger could lead to rash decisions, and those decisions could endanger not just oneself but an entire team. Seeing the effect her words had on Tenten, Temari continued, expressing her disappointment. She had hoped for a more challenging fight and dismissed the current situation as lacking excitement. This only fueled Tenten's frustration further, while above, Rock Lee and Guy tried to comprehend the unfolding events. Lee questioned how Temari could have evaded Tenten's attack, marveling at the situation. Guy insisted that Tenten's aim was impeccable and that something must have interfered with her shot. Niji, appearing less concerned than his teammates, noted that Tenten had indeed missed her target this time. Guy reiterated that there must have been a reason for the miss, leaving Lee in disbelief. Across the room, Kankuro smirked, commenting on Temari's performance and her ability to entertain. Meanwhile, Shikamaru expressed his embarrassment at the situation, acknowledging that the Sand Village was likely to win again. Choji agreed, stating that the outcome was clear. As Tenten took deep breaths to calm herself, she focused on how Temari had dodged her attack and began to strategize her next move. She reminded herself to stay composed and not let Temari's confidence affect her. Observing her opponent, Tenten noticed Temari's position at the edge of a floor tile. She began to calculate the distance, mentally marking her steps. As she assessed the situation, Temari watched with a smirk, amused by Tenten's calculations and preparing her own weapon, a giant metal fan. Realizing the source of her previous failure, Tenten adjusted her strategy. She started running in a circle around Temari, maintaining her distance. Temari simply turned her head to follow Tenten's movements, her hand resting on her fan. Once Tenten completed her circle, she positioned herself on Temari's right side, the side holding the fan. As she drew closer, she reached into her pocket, twisting and leaping into the air. With determination, she prepared to execute her next move. Tenten flipped upside down, spinning as she looked down at Temari while unfurling a scroll she had retrieved. The scroll revealed multiple characters as she maneuvered it around her, creating a dazzling display reminiscent of ribbon dancing. She spun faster and faster, her movements becoming a blur. Inside, Tenten pressed her hand to one of the characters on the scroll, summoning a kunai. She quickly pulled out other weapons and hurled them toward Temari. As the projectiles rained down, Temari expertly opened and closed her fan, creating a gust of wind that deflected the weapons harmlessly to the ground. Temari's fan, tan and cream-colored, stood firm beside her as she prepared for Tenten's next move. With nothing left to throw, Tenten landed on Temari's left side, the scroll fluttering uselessly to the ground. She expressed disbelief at how Temari had managed to stop all her attacks. In the stands, Naruto thought that if throwing weapons was all Tenten had, she stood little chance against Temari. Temari, with a confident demeanor, taunted Tenten, revealing the nature of her fan and warning her of the consequences of underestimating her. Dosu observed the match with a sense of pity for Tenten, believing she was at a disadvantage against Temari. He reflected on how Tenten might have fared better against a close-range fighter, where her skills could have shown. He noted her lack of specialized jutsu and felt that she should have been better prepared for such a challenge. As the match continued, Temari explained the significance of her fan, indicating that there were 2 more moons to reveal. Tenten stiffened at this declaration, and Lee called out to her, urging her to stay focused and not play into her opponent's game. Tenten gritted her teeth in frustration, feeling the weight of her teammates' advice and her own determination to overcome the odds. Tenten had initially planned to save her technique for the finals, but she realized this might be her only chance. With a confident smile, she shifted her focus and pulled out 2 scrolls, causing Lee to look on in confusion. Guy, standing beside him, recognized what Tenten was about to do and expressed his surprise. Niji remained silent, watching the match with skepticism, convinced that Tenten was destined to fail. As Tenten worked with the scrolls, she crouched down and positioned them carefully on the ground. Temari tossed her hair back and laughed, dismissing Tenten's efforts with a wicked smile. She believed it wouldn't work, whatever Tenten had planned. Balancing the scrolls upright, Tenten formed a series of hand signs and crossed her arms in front of her, declaring the name of her technique, Rising Twin Dragons. A massive swirl of smoke erupted, causing Temari to shield her eyes as the wind tousled her hair. Shikamaru watched with a hint of confusion, wondering if Tenten could turn the match in her favor, though he remained doubtful. Gaara, emotionless, observed his sister intently. Soon, 2 dragons made of smoke soared into the air, intertwining gracefully. As the smoke cleared, Tenten leaped between the scrolls, summoning an array of weapons and launching them at her opponent in rapid succession. Temari remained calm, showing no fear as the weapons rained down. She lifted her fan and declared that it didn't matter how many Tenten threw at her. With a swift motion, she swung her fan in a wide arc, effectively dispersing the barrage of weapons. Tenten landed back on the ground, glaring at Temari, determined not to give up. She leaped into the air once more, curling into a ball before unfurling and reaching for the nearly invisible strings attached to the weapons she had previously thrown, pulling them back into the air. Temari tightened her grip on her fan, preparing for the suspended weapons. With a grunt and a wave of her hands, Tenten sent the weapons crashing down toward Temari. Tenten felt a surge of confidence, believing she had the upper hand. However, Temari smirked, finding the situation too easy. With another wave of her fan, she sent Tenten and her weapons flying backward, causing Tenten to skid to a halt on the ground, surrounded by scattered weapons. As Tenten sat up, she noticed Temari's fan fully open, revealing 3 purple moons. Temari taunted her, declaring moon number 3. Tenten stood up, watching as Temari crouched behind her fan, the blank side facing Tenten. In a swift motion, Temari and her fan vanished from sight. Confused, Tenten searched for her opponent, wondering where she had gone. Temari's voice called out from behind her, prompting Tenten to whip around in shock. Above her, Temari glided through the air, riding her fan and smirking down at Tenten. As she circled back and landed in front of her, Temari prepared to unleash her finishing move. "Now it's my turn. Wind Scythe Jutsu," she announced, creating a whirlwind with her fan. The powerful wind swept Tenten off her feet, leaving her suspended in the air as she screamed. The force of the wind tugged at her clothing and skin, while Temari stood confidently, controlling the vortex. Niji observed the scene and informed his teammates that Temari's chakra was maintaining the whirlwind. Lee, concerned, watched helplessly as Tenten struggled. Niji concluded that Tenten had fought valiantly, but it was clear she wouldn't escape the whirlwind. As the whirlwind began to slow, Tenten fell from its grasp, landing on the closed metal fan that Temari had extended for that very purpose. The impact caused her to cough, and Naruto remarked on Temari's ruthlessness. The spectators remained focused on the match, though it was evident that it was nearing its conclusion, even if the referee had not yet declared it. Lee expressed his concern for Tenten, saddened by the damage she had sustained. Temari remarked that it hadn't been much of a match and found it somewhat boring. Guy struggled to comprehend how easily Temari had countered all of Tenten's attacks. Lee echoed his sensei's disbelief, while Naruto acknowledged Temari's impressive skills. Choji, along with Shikamaru, had anticipated the match's outcome, remaining unfazed by the events. Kankuro noted that the Sand Village team was one to be feared, and Gaara simply hummed in acknowledgement. As Heiei navigated through the field of fallen weapons, he announced the winner of the match, though it was already clear. The winner of the 5th match, Temari. With a smirk of triumph, Temari held Tenten up with her fan, and Lee, fearing for his teammates' safety, leaped from the balcony to intervene. Heiei turned to see what was happening, but before he could react, Temari swung her fan, sending Tenten flying over the scattered weapons. Fortunately, Lee caught her before she could land on the sharp objects, preventing further injury. Sliding back as he knelt with a slight groan, he gently adjusted Tenten's body into a more comfortable position. Watching this, Temari's smirk only grew as she commented on his effort. Lee, filled with indignation, demanded to know what was wrong with her. He asserted that even though Tenten had lost, it was no way to treat an opponent who had given her all. Temari picked up her fan and slammed it into the ground, ordering him to leave and take Tenten with him, her voice dripping with contempt. This only fueled Lee's anger as he set Tenten down and prepared to confront the girl who had insulted his teammate. He charged at the Sand Ninja, but Niji called out to him, urging him to stop. Guy also tried to intervene, but Lee was too consumed by his rage to listen. As he shouted his attack, Leaf Hurricane, Temari effortlessly blocked it with her fan, leaving Lee momentarily confused by the ease of her defense. She taunted him, claiming he was as foolish as he appeared. Lee growled in response, readying himself for another attempt. Guy joined them, commanding Lee to cease his aggression. Lee protested, turning to his mentor for support, but Temari's irritation grew at the interruption. Above them, Gaara called out to his sister, instructing her to disregard Lee and reminding her that she had won the match. He questioned why she was wasting her time with what he deemed a pathetic loser and his ridiculous mentor. Lee's anger flared again as he glared at Gaara, who looked down on him with an emotionless expression. Naruto, observing the escalating tension, intervened, urging them to break it up. He redirected Lee's focus, explaining that Tenten's loss was not solely due to her skills but a combination of factors, including her loss of patience. He reassured Lee that Tenten would have another chance after more training and that acting out in anger would only lead to his disqualification from the exam, something Tenten would not want. Lee felt a mix of disappointment and betrayal at Naruto's words, realizing the truth in them. He looked down in shame, acknowledging that Tenten wouldn't want him to jeopardize his future. Naruto then turned his attention to Guy, pointing out that Tenten needed more than just her tools. Her lack of preparation and planning had led to her defeat. As her sensei, Guy should have helped her recognize her tactical flaws. Temari smirked, enjoying the exchange, while Naruto's gaze turned cold as he focused on her. He tilted his head, and the atmosphere grew tense as everyone awaited his words. To their surprise, he praised Temari for her performance, leaving the spectators in shock. Kakashi expressed his disappointment, questioning how Naruto could commend someone who had harmed his comrade. Naruto laughed, dismissing the notion of camaraderie among them, which shocked the Leaf Shinobi. Hiruzen felt a wave of concern wash over him, realizing he had underestimated Naruto's transformation. The room fell silent until Guy placed a hand on Lee's shoulder, urging him to calm down. He then warned the Sand Ninja that they had no idea what Lee was capable of, reminding them that he had yet to fight. Tension remained high as the medic ninja took Tenten away, clearing the area of her weapons. The electric board soon activated, preparing to reveal the next combatants for the 7th match. Many of the genin and their sensei turned their attention to Naruto, who reflected on how he had been perceived by his peers. He thought about how they had never considered him a comrade, only a nuisance, and questioned why he should show them compassion. Hinata watched sadly as the atmosphere grew tense. Naruto urged for the next match to begin, and Heiei confirmed they would continue. Shikamaru sighed, recalling how the villagers had treated Naruto during his upbringing. As he was pulled from his thoughts by Asuma's tap on his shoulder, he learned it was his turn to fight. Shikamaru looked at the board and saw his opponent, Kintsuchi. He expressed his reluctance, muttering that it was his turn. As he walked past Naruto, he received encouragement to win. Shikamaru thought about the pressure to perform well, feeling the weight of expectations. His teammates cheered him on, with Ino enthusiastically rallying him to victory, while Choji internally questioned her newfound enthusiasm. As Kin descended from the balcony to face him, Ino continued her cheers, urging Shikamaru to make his opponent cry. Shikamaru, feeling overwhelmed, could only think about how much of a drag this all was. Shikamaru complained about having to fight a girl, his hands still in his pockets, while Kin responded with irritation. The proctor called for readiness, and the match began. Shikamaru swiftly formed the hand sign for his clan's signature technique, the Shadow Possession Jutsu, muttering that it was all he had. Kin taunted him, suggesting that if that was his only trick, the match would be easier than she thought. As she jumped away, Shikamaru noticed the sound of bells. Kin had thrown 2 Sinban with bells attached, which flew over his head and embedded themselves into the wall behind him. He quickly deduced her strategy, chuckling to himself about her old trick. Confident in his analysis, he predicted her next move, which involved throwing Sinban with and without bells simultaneously. Kin observed his chatter as she charged at him, launching more Sinban his way. Shikamaru maintained his smile, dodging left and then down, realizing he needed to avoid all the Sinban, not just the ones with bells. Unexpectedly, he heard the sound of bells ringing again, despite not seeing Kin throw anything. Confused, he turned around to find the Sinban from earlier moving, the bells ringing as they were pulled by threads. Realizing his mistake, he felt a rush of panic as Kin prepared to attack again. Kin smirked and declared that it was too late for him to react. She threw 2 more silent senbon, hitting their target and forcing Shikamaru to the ground. He winced in pain as he stood up, pulling the senbon from his arm and noting how close he had come to a serious injury. Tossing the senbon aside, he declared it was his turn now. Kin, however, was not finished. She tugged the thread attached to the bells, causing Shikamaru to feel disoriented and unsteady. As he sank to his knees, he glared at her, demanding to know what was happening. Kin explained her strategy, detailing how the bell emitted sound vibrations that would lead to paralysis and hallucinations. Shikamaru began to sweat as the bells continued to ring, desperately trying to block out the noise. Kin informed him that it was futile to try and block the sound once it was in his head. As the hallucinations began, multiple versions of Kin appeared before him, making it difficult for him to discern the real one. Kin taunted him further, noting that he couldn't move his limbs and would be unable to decide which version to target. She promised to take her time with him, pulling out more senbon as the bells tolled ominously. Shikamaru braced himself as she threw the senbon, feeling the sting as they struck his arm and shoulder, causing him to fall again. Kin reveled in her success, teasing him about how she would keep increasing the number of senbon until he resembled a hedgehog. Shikamaru, however, was unfazed. He challenged her to stop playing games and get on with it, expressing his impatience. Kin feigned politeness, but then decided to speed things up, preparing to throw more senbon. Just as she was about to attack, something unexpected happened. Kin found herself unable to move her arm, shocked and confused. Shikamaru chuckled, revealing that his shadow jutsu had worked after all. The spectators watched in disbelief as Kin struggled to comprehend the situation. Kin protested, insisting that Shikamaru hadn't thrown any shadows, but he smirked, pointing out the thread she was holding and how it cast a shadow at that height. As she realized her mistake, Shikamaru explained how he had stretched his shadow along the thread, catching her off guard. Kin scolded herself for not noticing the shadow spreading around her, while Shikamaru reveled in his cleverness, ready to turn the tide of the match. Shikamaru informed Kin that he was now attached to her, raising his hand in a mirror gesture. Kin, however, remained confident, believing there was still no way for Shikamaru to win. She dismissed the move as a cute trick, questioning what he gained from it. Shikamaru complained about her annoyance and instructed her to watch as he reached for his shuriken holder, Kin mimicking his actions. With a smirk, Shikamaru prepared to throw his shuriken, prompting Kin to panic. She warned him that throwing it would only result in him attacking himself. Unfazed, Shikamaru took out the weapon, finding the situation interesting. Kin protested, insisting he wouldn't dare do it. Shikamaru likened it to a game of chicken, challenging her to see who would back down first before he threw his shuriken. Kin, feeling cornered, yelled in disbelief and threw her own shuriken in response. The two weapons flew past each other as the spectators held their breath. Shikamaru bent backward, narrowly avoiding Kin's shuriken. Kin smirked, thinking she could do the same, but in her attempt, she hit her head against the wall behind her, effectively knocking herself out. Shikamaru joked about her misfortune, noting that she had not considered her surroundings. He explained that she was so focused on him that she failed to notice the wall inches behind her head. As she fell, he relished the moment, feeling a sense of triumph. Heiei then announced Shikamaru as the winner of the 7th match. Ino cheered for Shikamaru, and Choji joined in, celebrating his best friend's victory. Lee looked at Naruto and Gaara, feeling impatient for his turn. Dosu observed the situation with frustration, noting that he was the only one left. The next fight was set to be Kiba against Gaara, but Kiba shouted that he forfeited, recognizing the danger of facing Gaara. Gaara, disappointed, wanted to fight. The screen flashed, announcing the next match, Naruto Uzumaki vs. Rock Lee. Naruto jumped down into the arena, feeling excited that it was finally his turn. Niji warned Lee that this match could be dangerous, while Guy expressed concern about Lee's chances against Naruto. Lee nodded and prepared himself as the room quieted, everyone settling in to watch the battle unfold. Many hoped for a less intense fight between the two Leaf Genin, and no one dared to predict the outcome. Kiba remarked on Naruto being the underdog, which made Shikamaru chuckle, confident that Naruto would prove him wrong. Sakura watched Lee with concern, while Dosu pitted Naruto for facing such a strong opponent. Hinata silently wished Naruto good luck, and Guy encouraged Lee to show his youthful spirit. Naruto declared that he wouldn't use any ninjutsu to make things fair, which led Kakashi to think that even without it, Naruto stood little chance against Lee. 8 raised his hand to signal the start of the match, and Lee launched into action with a roundhouse kick, calling out his technique. Naruto caught Lee's kick and attempted to counter with a punch, but Lee quickly dropped to his hands and kicked with his other leg, landing a hit on Naruto's face. Unfazed, Naruto responded by kicking Lee in the stomach, sending him flying. Lee recovered midair and charged at Naruto, executing a series of kicks that Naruto managed to block. Naruto then disappeared and reappeared behind Lee, attempting a swift roundhouse kick, which Lee blocked. Finding the fight a bit dull, Naruto jumped away, surprising those who still underestimated him. Guy encouraged Lee to remove his weights, and with a thumbs up from his sensei, Lee dropped them, creating a loud boom as they hit the ground. Naruto reacted with alarm, while Kakashi scolded Guy for his decision. Lee vanished in a burst of speed, launching a flurry of strikes that left Naruto struggling to keep up. As Naruto was hit repeatedly, he quickly enhanced himself with curse energy. When Lee aimed another punch, Naruto blocked it and attempted to counter with an elbow strike. Lee evaded and jumped back, recalling how Naruto had tried to break his leg earlier. The two engaged in intense taijutsu, blocking and countering each other's moves. Kiba was astonished by Naruto's transformation, while Shikamaru noted that the fight could end if Naruto decided to use his ninjutsu. Hinata admired Naruto's strength, and Lee felt the pressure of the fight intensifying. Lee glanced at Guy, who remembered Niji's warning about Naruto's potential to use ninjutsu. Guy urged Lee to go all out, and Lee activated the first gate, powering up further by opening the second and third gates. Memories of Lee's determination to become a respectable ninja flooded back to Guy and Niji. Lee opened the fourth and fifth gates, his power and speed increasing dramatically, his skin turning red and a blue aura surrounding him. Guy defended his decision to teach Lee the gates, stating it was a last resort to protect his friends and uphold his nindo. Kakashi sighed, recognizing the seriousness of the situation. Guy declared it was over for Naruto, but Kakashi suggested not to count him out just yet. If Lee forced Naruto to use his ninjutsu, it would spell disaster. Shikamaru felt a sense of dread as he glanced at Niji, who nodded in agreement. Kakashi pondered the situation, wondering when Lee had learned a technique that could dismantle his opponents. Lee's movements became a blur as he attacked Naruto from all angles. Naruto found himself overwhelmed by Lee's speed, unable to react. He felt a surge of joy at Lee's strength. Guy shouted encouragement for Lee to finish the fight. Lee swiftly kicked Naruto into the air and prepared to unleash his most powerful technique, the reverse lotus. He believed this would conclude the match, though he felt the strain of the 8 inner gates on his body. Guy cheered, while Niji and Shikamaru thought that if Lee hadn't held back, he might have won. They looked at Naruto, who lay on the ground, and saw him gazing up at the sky, acknowledging Lee's strength and earning his respect. Just as Hay-8 was about to declare the match over, Naruto stood up, most of his injuries mysteriously healed. The audience gasped in disbelief, wondering how he had recovered so quickly. Naruto had used reverse curse energy to heal while being overwhelmed by Lee. He acknowledged Lee's strength and declared that, as a sign of respect, he would end the fight with his strongest attack. With a hand sign and closed eyes, he announced the name of his jutsu, Domain Expansion, Malevolent Shrine. The Jonins and Hokage felt chills as the intense malice emanated from the shrine, leaving the genin terrified. Lee's instincts urged him to flee, but he steeled himself and charged at Naruto. Before he could take another step, he felt a sharp pain. In an instant he realized he had lost his arm. Confused, he looked down, only to have his other arm severed as well. He recalled Niji's words, accepting his fate with a smile, believing he would die fighting a worthy opponent. Naruto continued his assault, incapacitating Lee further. The Leaf ninjas watched in horror, and Guy's expression turned fierce. Niji warned his sensei not to act rashly, but Guy leaped into the arena, only to meet a similar fate. Naruto addressed everyone, warning them that within the shrine, his attacks would never miss, urging them not to provoke him. Gaara watched with a battle-crazed look, while Temari and Kankuro exchanged worried glances. Hiruzen felt disappointment in Naruto's actions, realizing he had become a potential threat to the village. Kakashi shared this concern, contemplating the necessity of drastic measures if Naruto continued down this path. Kiba expressed shock at the situation, while Hinata felt sadness over Naruto's choices. Shikamaru explained that Naruto would not face punishment for his actions, as he had defended himself during the Chunin exams. Hayate looked at Lee and declared Naruto the victor. As the chapter concluded, Kurunai blinked rapidly, struggling to reconcile her memories of Naruto with the person he had become. Naruto reflected on his own weaknesses, acknowledging that without Sukuna, he would have lost. He looked at Lee and Guy, realizing that if Lee was that strong, then Guy must be even stronger. Determined not to let their potential go to waste, Naruto performed hand signs and summoned them to his domain. When they awoke, they found Naruto sitting on a throne. He explained that he had decided to revive them because their strength was too valuable to lose. Before proceeding, he insisted on making a binding vow, shocking everyone present. When Naruto revived Lee and Guy, the spectators were left in disbelief, questioning how he had gained such power. The two ninjas awoke, and Naruto instructed them not to lose to anyone but him. They nodded in agreement before he canceled the domain and rejoined his team. Kakashi inquired about who had taught Naruto his techniques, but Naruto dismissed the question. As Hayate announced the next match, attention shifted to the board, which revealed the upcoming fight, Hinata Hyuga versus Neji Hyuga. Hinata gasped in fear, realizing she had drawn one of the worst possible matchups. Kiba gritted his teeth in frustration, while Kurenai looked on with concern. Guy narrowed his eyes, knowing his student might cause trouble. Neji accepted the match with a calm demeanor, believing it was fate for him to face Hinata. They stood opposite each other, a tense atmosphere enveloped them. Neji addressed Hinata, expressing surprise at their matchup, while she responded with downcast eyes, unable to meet his gaze. With nothing else happening, Hayate signaled for the match to begin. Before they fought, Neji offered a word of advice, urging Hinata to withdraw, stating that she was never meant to be a ninja. This made Hinata freeze, feeling the weight of his words. Hinata sought harmony and avoided conflict, often swayed by the opinions of others. Neji pointed out her shortcomings, making it clear he believed she lacked confidence and felt inferior to everyone around them. He suggested that it would have been better for her to remain a genin, but since Shino and Kiba wanted to participate in the Chunin exams, she felt compelled to join them, not wanting to let her teammates down. Hinata looked away, unable to face Neji's accusations. She insisted that she wanted to prove herself, to see if she could change. The silence that followed revealed the concern of their friends Sakura, Kakashi, Kiba, Shino, and Kurenai, who were worried for her. Kurenai reflected on her time as Hinata-sensei, recalling how strict Hinata's father had been during her training. She remembered the way Hinata strained to meet his expectations and how coldly he spoke of her. Compassion filled Kurenai's heart as she recognized Hinata's struggles to become who she wanted to be. Naruto noticed Hinata's expression, which seemed to hold back tears. Neji continued to criticize her, labeling her as the pampered daughter of the Hyuga clan. Hinata was taken aback, never having considered her life in such a way. Neji declared that people could not change, that a failure would always be a failure, and that they were judged by their true nature. His words struck deep, filling Hinata with doubt and confusion. Neji continued, asserting that what could not be changed must be endured, and he expressed his own bitterness about their clan's hierarchy. He claimed to see through her bravado with his Byakugan, suggesting that she wished to escape from the reality of her situation. Hinata, feeling overwhelmed, shook her head in denial. Her mind raced as she listened to Neji, her breath becoming shallow. She recognized the stance he had taken, activating the Kekkei Genkai they both possessed. Niji's eyes transformed, revealing their distinctive features, and Hinata felt a chill at the intensity of his gaze. Neji accused her of thinking about her past and her fears of failure, revealing her inner turmoil. Hinata felt panic rising within her, struggling to suppress it as Niji continued to expose her vulnerabilities. His relentless words seemed to trigger a wave of anxiety, making her feel trapped. As Niji's taunts grew harsher, Naruto intervened, urging Hinata to stand up for herself. His encouragement resonated with her, prompting her to lift her head and face Niji with newfound determination. She realized she could no longer hide or run away. Niji, surprised by the change in her demeanor, warned her of the consequences if she did not forfeit the match. Ignoring his threat, Hinata swiftly performed a series of hand signs, vowing to herself that she would not retreat again. Memories of Naruto's courage filled her with strength as she activated her Byakugan. Kurenai and Shino watched with concern, while Guy observed the unfolding battle with a serious expression. As both Hyuga prepared for combat, they entered their stances, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. In unison, they leaped forward, closing the distance between them. Hinata aimed to strike Niji's forearm, and as he blocked her attack, a burst of chakra filled the air. From there, a recurring pattern emerged as Hinata attempted to strike, dodge, and bend backward. Soon, the rhythm was interrupted when Hinata spotted an opening. She thought to herself that now was the moment as her palm grazed the area around Niji's stomach. Niji paused his attacks, stepping back, and Hinata mirrored his action. Sakura leaned closer, curious about the match, and wondered if Hinata had managed to hit him. Naruto pointed out that she had hardly touched Niji. Guy explained that even a glancing blow could be significant, highlighting the Hyuga clan's reputation as formidable fighters. Sakura, confused, asked what made them so special. Guy elaborated that their taijutsu was unique, passed down through generations. Unlike the style that he and Lee practiced, which focused on external damage, the Hyuga style targeted internal organs and the chakra network, making it subtle yet devastating over time. Kakashi added that no matter how hard one trains, internal organs remain vulnerable to such attacks. As the two Hyugas resumed their battle, striking, blocking, and dodging, Hinata thought to herself that she could handle this challenge. Shino observed that Niji was struggling to keep up with Hinata's pace. Kurenai felt a sense of worry for Hinata. As they pushed each other back, Sakura expressed her amazement at the idea of attacking the chakra network. Naruto, curious, asked what exactly the chakra network was. Sakura groaned at his lack of knowledge, prompting an annoyed glare from him. Guy stepped in to explain that the chakra network was a complex system of canals distributing chakra throughout the body, akin to the vascular system that carries blood. He further clarified that the network was intertwined with vital organs, so when it was attacked, those organs suffered as well. Sakura questioned how the Hyugas knew where to strike since the chakra network was invisible. Guy reminded her of their Byakugan, which allowed them to see what others could not. Kakashi added that their attacks were different from normal ones. A small but intense burst of chakra was released from their hands, drilling into the opponent's body. At that moment, both Hinata and Niji landed direct hits to each other's torsos, with Hinata's strike appearing to land first. The onlookers held their breath, concerned about the outcome of the attack. Shino wondered if Hinata had succeeded. Silence enveloped the arena as everyone awaited the result. A heartbeat began to quicken, working harder than normal. Team 10 remained quiet, the tension palpable. Suddenly, Hinata gasped as blood escaped her lips, the result of Niji's strike to her chest while he pressed a pressure point on her arm. Hinata's blood dripped onto Niji's bandaged hand, staining it. Niji, incredulous, questioned if this was all the main branch's power had to offer, expressing disappointment. Sakura gasped at the sight, but despite the pain in her chest, Hinata's determination remained unshaken. She resolved not to give up, using her other arm to swat Niji's hand away and aimed for his face. Anticipating her move, Niji dodged, seized her wrist, and struck another pressure point on her arm, sending chakra into it. Guy recognized the technique and gritted his teeth, knowing the implications. Kakashi felt uneasy about Niji's fighting style, while Kurenai's dread grew. The Hokage acknowledged Niji's exceptional talent as the most gifted of the Hyuga clan. As Hinata struggled to maintain her composure, Niji pushed her sleeve up, revealing small red welts on her arm, marks he had created. Realizing what he had done, Hinata stuttered, questioning if he had been aware of her chakra points all along. Niji confirmed that he had been able to see them the entire time, effectively neutralizing her attacks. As the fight continued, Niji pushed Hinata back, and she fell to the ground with a thud. Niji declared that she was out of her league and that this was the divide between the elite and the failures. Hinata remained silent, panting as she turned to face him. Niji continued to assert that her fate was sealed the moment she chose not to run, claiming she was destined for failure and consumed by hopelessness. He warned her to forfeit the match, stepping closer as Hinata struggled to speak through her pain. Blood dribbled from her mouth as she tried to express her resolve, stating that she would never go back on her word. Hinata stood up and faced Niji, blood dripping from the corners of her mouth. Despite her condition, her eyes were filled with determination. Naruto recognized her words and felt inspired by her strength. Hinata smiled at him, embodying the spirit of her ninja way. Sakura pointed out that Hinata always watched Naruto and had a crush on him, which surprised Naruto. This realization reminded him that there were people in the village who cared for him. Hinata reactivated her dojutsu, focusing on the battle ahead, while Niji prepared himself in the gentle fist stance. Kurenai assessed Hinata's state, knowing she had reached her limit. It was clear to everyone that, despite her determination, Hinata was struggling against Niji. Niji, undeterred, prepared to attack again, and the spectators began to express their concerns about the unfairness of the match. Hinata gasped for breath, her heart racing as she thought of Naruto. Niji noticed a spark of strength in her eyes but dismissed it as he focused on the fight. As she rushed toward Niji, she thought of all the times she had watched him, words she had never had the courage to say. The two cousins exchanged blows, each trying to gain the upper hand. Hinata recalled fond memories of Naruto, feeling inspired by his courage. With each strike, she felt a surge of determination. She aimed a powerful kick at Niji, but he dodged and countered, landing a hit that made her cry out. The spectators gasped, and Naruto felt a surge of anger. Despite the pain, Hinata remained standing, holding her chest as she struggled to breathe. Kurenai recognized the growth in her student, who had once been a quitter. Hinata charged at Niji, her thoughts focused on showing Naruto her strength. However, Niji struck her again, sending a wave of chakra through her body. Hinata froze, her Byakugan deactivating as she fell to the ground. The audience was worried, and Kurenai felt a pang of sadness for her student. Naruto's expression turned fierce, and those around him sensed his anger directed at Niji. Niji, confident in his victory, declared that Hinata was finished and turned to walk away. Kurenai praised Hinata for her growth, even in defeat. Guy expressed his disappointment, but Naruto's anger only grew. As Hay-8 prepared to declare the match over, Hinata thought to herself that she would not give up. To everyone's shock, she began to rise, trembling but determined. The spectators were stunned, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Niji was taken aback by her persistence, questioning her resolve. Hinata did not respond verbally, focusing instead on her labored breathing. She was determined not to appear weak, especially not in front of the person she admired most. Despite the pain, she smiled as she faced Niji again, vowing to herself that she would not back down. Naruto watched with pride as Hinata got back on her feet. Niji, however, was consumed by anger, his teeth grinding as he reactivated his Byakugan. This caught the attention of Kurenai, Shino, Guy, Sakura, and Kakashi. Hinata informed her cousin that she was far from finished, her voice strained from pain. Niji urged her to give up, insisting that she was barely standing and burdened by the expectations of the Hyuga clan. He believed she was suffering from her perceived weakness, but Hinata shook her head, asserting that he was the one truly tormented by the clan's fate. Niji's expression shifted from confusion to anger as he processed her words. He charged at Hinata in a fit of rage, ignoring the Proctor Hay-8's desperate attempts to stop him. Other Leaf senseis, including Kakashi, Kurenai, and Guy, intervened, blocking Niji from reaching Hinata. Guy scolded Niji, reminding him of his promise not to let clan issues affect him. Niji growled in response, questioning why the Jonin were interfering. Naruto then spoke up, pointing out that if Niji had harmed Hinata, he would have faced dire consequences himself. As the tension escalated, Hinata's heart raced, and she suddenly collapsed to her knees, overwhelmed by the battle's aftermath. Kurenai rushed to her side, calling out her name, while Naruto quickly descended to the ground floor. Kurenai laid Hinata on her back, relieved to find her still conscious. Hinata struggled to speak, wondering if she had changed at all. Just then, Niji, now free from the Jonin's hold, approached Naruto, but before he could say anything, Naruto struck him multiple times, warning him to be grateful he had not been killed. Hayate, concerned for everyone's safety, tried to maintain order as Naruto glared at him. The atmosphere was tense, and the other Jonin were wary of provoking Naruto further. Suddenly, Hinata stopped breathing, prompting Kurenai to act quickly. She unzipped Hinata's jacket, checking for signs of life. When she found none, she shouted for a medic. The medic team rushed in with a stretcher, and the urgency of the situation heightened as they assessed Hinata's condition. With no pulse detected, the medic declared the situation critical, and Naruto stepped forward, determined to help. He focused his energy to heal Hinata, and after a tense moment, she began to cough softly, her breathing stabilizing as she opened her eyes. The room erupted in relief, and Naruto turned to the medic, pointing out Niji's need for assistance. As the medics took Niji away, Hinata's concern for him surfaced, even as she struggled to comprehend her own feelings. Naruto then asked Hinata if she liked him, to which she blushed and fainted, leaving him to interpret her reaction as a yes. As the preliminaries concluded, Hayate announced the results, calling all the winners to the arena. The genin lined up, with Dosu on one end and Naruto beside him, followed by Temari, Kankuro, Gaara, Shikamaru, and Shino. Hayate commended those advancing to the finals, noting one absence. The Hokage reflected on the representation of the leaf, sand, and sound villages among the finalists. He then explained that the final rounds would showcase their skills, set to begin a month later. Naruto, eager to fight, questioned why they couldn't compete immediately, prompting Shikamaru to remind him that many were injured and needed time to recover. Everyone isn't as strong as you, Naruto thought with a smirk, referring to his peers. Hayate explained that there would be a month-long wait before the final third exam, and the Hokage nodded in agreement, stating that this time would allow for proper preparation. Temari inquired about the meaning behind this delay. The Hokage clarified that, in addition to announcing the conclusion of the preliminary matches to each country's leaders, they needed time to prepare and distribute the summons for the final selection. He emphasized that the examinees would require time to prepare for such an important event. Kankuro, feeling impatient, wondered why the Hokage was being so vague. The Hokage continued, explaining that the examinees needed to know their adversaries and prepare themselves. Although the previous battles had been real, they had been conducted under the assumption of fighting unknown enemies. Now that they had battled each other, it was crucial to adapt. He encouraged everyone to practice hard and learn new techniques, as relying on old tricks would lead to failure in the finals. He also reminded them to get some rest. Naruto looked around at his peers, feeling confident about the upcoming challenges. Gaara, with a battle-hungry grin, seemed eager for the competition. The Hokage then shifted the focus, indicating that there was one more important matter to address for the final rounds. He instructed everyone to take a slip of paper from the box that Anko was holding. Anko assured them to stay in place while she distributed the papers. As each participant took their slip, Naruto unfolded his to reveal the number 3. When everyone had drawn their papers, Ibiki prompted them to announce their numbers. The numbers were called out. Dosu had 8, Naruto had 3, Temari had 7, Kankuro had 5, Gaara had 4, Shikamaru had 9, and Shino had 6. Ibiki noted that Niji and Sasuke would be numbers 1 and 2. The Hokage explained how the final selection tournament would work, and the genin were surprised to learn that the numbers indicated their matchups. Ibiki revealed the pairings. Sasuke would face Niji, Gaara would battle Naruto, Kankuro would go against Shino, and Temari would fight Dosu. Shikamaru would face the winner of the 4th match. Shino remained silent upon seeing his opponent, while Dosu felt irritated at the prospect of waiting. Temari wondered if the final rounds were merely a tournament, and Shikamaru found the situation tedious. Kankuro felt relieved not to be drawing against Gaara, while Gaara fixated on Naruto, eager for their confrontation. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Kabuto prepared to kidnap Sasuke under Orochimaru's orders but was thwarted by Kakashi, forcing him to retreat. Back at the Chunin exams arena, Hiruzen informed the candidates that they could leave. As Naruto walked away, he sensed someone staring at him. It was Hiruzen, whose serious expression caught Naruto's attention. In that moment, Naruto's eyes flashed red, alarming the Jonin and Genin around him. Enko chuckled at the sight, while Hiruzen speculated that Naruto might be under the influence of the fox spirit. After leaving the arena, Naruto headed to Ichiraku-ramen. On his way, he noticed some people giving him nasty glares, but he frightened them off with his aura. Upon arriving, Tucci welcomed him warmly, and Ayam presented the new menu, showcasing various dipping noodle dishes. Naruto, initially confused, insisted on his usual pork miso ramen, but eventually agreed to try the new offering. After finishing his meal, Naruto expressed his satisfaction, and Tucci, with a serious face, asked if he had expected it to taste bad. Naruto laughed, assuring him that his ramen was always the best. Tucci smiled back, and when Naruto went to pay, Tucci offered the meal on the house, expressing his support for Naruto over the years. Grateful, Naruto thanked him and left, promising to return soon. As he walked away, Naruto contemplated his next steps and eventually decided to leave the village. Approaching the gate, he was confronted by Izumo and Kotetsu, who asked where he was going. Instead of answering, Naruto released a powerful aura, causing the gatekeepers to freeze in fear. He walked past them, determined to grow stronger. Izumo and Kotetsu reported Naruto's actions to Hiruzen, who remained calm but concerned about the potential threat Naruto could pose upon his return. As Naruto departed from the Hidden Leaf Village, he embarked on a journey filled with training, battles, and unexpected encounters. Along the way, he met Stone Ninja who recognized him as the son of the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze. This revelation filled Naruto with pride and a newfound connection to his father's legacy as a respected shinobi. On the other hand, he struggled with feelings of resentment, as his father was the reason he had been ostracized. As Naruto encountered a group of Stone Ninja, they immediately recognized the resemblance between him and the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Fueled by their loyalty to the Stone Village and their desire to avenge past defeats at the hands of the Leaf Village, the ninja decided to attack Naruto, believing that eliminating him would strike a blow against their enemies. As the Stone Ninja launched their assault, Naruto's latent powers began to stir. With a surge of cursed energy, he tapped into Sukuna's immense strength and unleashed a technique known as dismantle. In an instant, he released razor-sharp slashes, cutting through the Stone Ninja with unparalleled precision and ferocity. The Stone Ninja were caught off guard by Naruto's display of power, unable to defend themselves against the onslaught. One by one, they fell before Naruto's relentless assault, their bodies overwhelmed by the force of his strikes. As the dust settled, Naruto stood amidst the aftermath, a sinister grin on his face. The Stone Ninja lay defeated at his feet, their presence reduced to mere remnants. As Naruto traveled the world, seeking to master his newfound power and come to terms with his past life as Sukuna, he found himself immersed in a journey of self-discovery and inner conflict. Determined to control his abilities and become stronger, Naruto trained tirelessly, pushing himself to the limit in pursuit of greater power. However, amidst his training, Naruto also indulged in worldly pleasures, finding solace and distraction in moments of enjoyment. These experiences served as a temporary escape from the weight of his responsibilities and the burden of his past, offering him a brief respite from the trials of his journey. But as Naruto delved deeper into his memories and confronted the truth of his past life, he found himself consumed by a newfound sense of vengeance. Remembering the injustices he had suffered, Naruto vowed to never again be a victim and to deliver justice to those who deserved it. With this resolve burning within him, Naruto set forth on a new path, guided by his own moral code. He made a solemn oath to himself, to never harm the innocent, but to punish the guilty with righteous fury. This code became his guiding principle as he traversed the world, confronting corruption, tyranny, and evil wherever he found it. Armed with his newfound power, Naruto became a force to be reckoned with. Naruto's last stop was the Land of Waves, where he received a warm welcome and was celebrated with a party that lasted for 3 days. During this time, he enjoyed the festivities and the company of friends. On the day of the Chunin exams, he bid farewell to Tsunami and the others. On his way back to the Leaf Village, he stopped by the graves of Zabuza and Haku, only to discover that Kubikurbocho was missing. Digging at the graves, he found that their bodies were also gone. Excitement filled him as he thought of the possibilities, eager to see them again. At the Chunin exam stadium, a rare display of camaraderie unfolded as all 4 Kage from the shinobi villages came together to attend the prestigious event hosted by the Leaf Village. It was a monumental occasion, with the Hokage, Tsuchikage, Kazekage, Mizukage, and Reikage present to witness the next generation of shinobi showcase their skills. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement as genin from different villages gathered to compete for the coveted Chunin rank. Amidst the bustling crowd, the fire daimyo and the nobles from the Land of Fire added an air of grandeur to the event, symbolizing the importance of the Chunin exams. Shikamaru observed the crowd, feeling a sense of weariness. Genma encouraged the genin to smile, reminding them that they were the stars of the show. Shikamaru noted that Naruto, Sasuke, and Dosu were missing, which raised concerns about the upcoming matches. The presence of the other Kage created a significant obstacle for Orochimaru's intentions to invade the hidden Leaf Village. Their tightened security measures and vigilance made it challenging for Orochimaru to execute any overt actions without risking exposure. Hiruzen expressed gratitude to the Kage, the daimyo, and the nobles for attending the exam before declaring the start of the competitions. As the matches began, Niji prepared to face Sasuke, who was still absent. Niji, overconfident despite his condition, believed he could defeat Sasuke easily. Genma looked to Hiruzen, who was ready to disqualify Sasuke, but the Kazekage urged him to reconsider, successfully convincing Hiruzen not to disqualify Sasuke. Next came Naruto's match against Gaara. Genma glanced at Hiruzen again, who contemplated disqualifying Naruto, knowing the fight could be disastrous for the Sans Jinchuriki. Zabuza, who had faked his death, expressed his eagerness to see how much Naruto had grown. Alongside him, Mei and others were also interested in witnessing the match. Naruto's match was postponed, and Sakura wondered where both Naruto and Sasuke were. Meanwhile, Naruto stopped by Ichiraku, where he flirted with Ayame, much to Tuchi's dismay, who watched but did not intervene. The match between Shikamaru and Temari showcased a battle of wits and strategy. Shikamaru's laid-back demeanor belied his keen intellect, as he meticulously analyzed Temari's movements and formulated a plan to outmaneuver her. Temari's fierce determination and wind-based jutsu kept Shikamaru on his toes, forcing him to think several steps ahead. Ultimately, Shikamaru chose to forfeit the match, earning the boos of the villagers. Despite his decision, Hiruzen acknowledged Shikamaru's tactical prowess, noting how he had Temari on the ropes with his strategic maneuvers. Anoki and I praised Shikamaru's ability to analyze the battlefield and anticipate his opponent's moves, recognizing his potential as a leader. Mei remarked on the rarity of such strategic planning from someone so young, emphasizing that Shikamaru's ability to outthink his opponents was a testament to his potential. He's a shinobi to be reckoned with, thought the Kazekage. As the discussion continued, the 5 Kage reflected on Shikamaru's impressive showing in the Chunin exams, recognizing his potential as a future leader and tactician. Despite his decision to forfeit, Shikamaru's strategic prowess left a lasting impression on all who witnessed his match against Temari. In the match between Shino and Kankuro, Kankuro unexpectedly forfeited. The 4 Kage turned to the 4th Kazekage, curious about Kankuro's surprising decision. Hiruzen inquired about it, and Mei expressed her curiosity as well. Raza explained that Kankuro's choice was not made lightly. He had learned the dangers of fighting in Aburame. Rather than risk the safety of himself and his puppets, Kankuro chose to forfeit. As the discussion concluded, the 4 Kage gained a deeper understanding of the circumstances surrounding Kankuro's forfeit, acknowledging the challenges and risks faced by shinobi in the heat of battle. Everyone anxiously awaited the arrival of Sasuke, while others looked for Naruto. Suddenly, a crater formed in the arena. When the dust settled, a shirtless Naruto emerged, his body covered in markings. Mei's third bodyguard was ecstatic to see Naruto, and both Mei and Haku noticed the look on his face. Haku wondered why Uncle Yuram was so happy to see Naruto. As the villagers looked on, their sneers and murmurs filled the air, their distrust and disdain for Naruto evident on their faces. Naruto chuckled at their reactions, while Yuram felt a surge of anger at their disrespect. The Leaf Genin and their senseis regarded Naruto with wary gazes. Gaara flickered into the arena, declaring his intent to take Naruto's blood with a sinister smile. Naruto responded with a resolute tone, questioning whether a weakling like Gaara could truly kill him. Gaara retorted, determined to prove otherwise. Genma asked if they were ready, and both nodded. Zabuza thought to himself that he wanted to see how much Naruto had grown. Naruto summoned his divine dog, Nu, and Maharaga, each Shikigami materializing with a burst of curse energy. The divine dog charged forward, while Nu took to the skies, crackling with electrical energy. Maharaga stood ready to unleash devastation upon Gaara. Naruto recalled the first time he summoned Maharaga, when the divine general had initially intended to kill him. Learning from Sukuna's memories, he understood that Maharaga should not be given time to adapt to his abilities, and he swiftly ended their fight. Hiruzen expressed concern about the monsters before them, noting that Naruto's power seemed to be growing at an alarming rate. Anoki agreed, recognizing the potential threat Naruto's strength could pose to their villages if left unchecked. Mei observed Yuram's ecstatic expression, realizing that Naruto's new power was worrisome and that he was becoming too strong too quickly. Gaara, recognizing the threat posed by Naruto's Shikigami, commanded his sand to surge forward in a swirling vortex. The divine dog clashed with Gaara's sand, snapping its powerful jaws at the grains. Meanwhile, Nu unleashed bolts of lightning from above, striking Gaara's defenses with pinpoint accuracy. Maharaga analyzed Gaara's movements, preparing to counter with deadly precision. As the battle intensified, Naruto's Shikigami pressed the attack, their combined strength overwhelming Gaara's defenses. The divine dog delivered bone-shattering blows, while Nu's lightning strikes blinded and disoriented Gaara. Maharaga countered Gaara's sand manipulation with calculated efficiency, forcing him onto the defensive. With a final, decisive strike, Naruto's Shikigami converged upon Gaara, their combined efforts culminating in a devastating blow. The arena shook with the force of their attack as Gaara was sent crashing to the ground. As the dust settled, Naruto stood victorious, his Shikigami dispersing with a sense of satisfaction. Shikamaru thought it was troublesome that Naruto had become stronger. Hinata admired Naruto's abilities, while Kiba wanted to voice his concerns but kept quiet. Zabuza acknowledged that Naruto had certainly gotten stronger. The other bodyguards commented on Naruto's impressive control over those powerful creatures, recognizing him as a force to be reckoned with. Anoki noted that Naruto's power was truly awe-inspiring, capable of facing even the most skilled opponents. The Kazekage realized his son had underestimated Naruto's strength, acknowledging him as a worthy opponent. He contemplated how interesting Naruto would be as a vessel. Shikaku took over the weakened Gaara, and Naruto smirked at the tailed beast, realizing that this changed everything. The Kage turned their attention to the Kazekage, expecting answers. Before they could react, a smoke bomb went off in the Kage booth. The Kazekage grabbed Hiruzen, leading him to the roof, with the other Kage following. Upon arriving on the roof, the sound force surrounded them, creating a barrier. Hiruzen's Umbu attempted to breach the barrier but was met with fiery resistance. Fighting broke out in the crowd, and the Kage ordered their bodyguards to assist the Leaf. Yuram approached Naruto, expressing his happiness at seeing him. Naruto replied that he hoped a meal would be prepared by the time he dealt with the situation. Yuram assured him it would be done before disappearing. As the reanimated first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, along with the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju, and the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, stood before Hiruzen Sarutobi and the other Ka, A heavy sense of history filled the air. Hiruzen greeted them with warmth and sorrow, recognizing the tumultuous circumstances of their reunion. I stood beside Hiruzen, his eyes lighting up at the sight of Minato. The dynamic between them, even after death, spoke volumes of their past encounters filled with mutual respect. I remarked on the humor of fate bringing them together once more. Mei looked on with a stern expression, understanding the gravity of the situation. She noted that facing such legendary figures and Orochimaru would not be easy. Anoki nodded in agreement, stating that this would be a test of their resolve and strength, but they would prevail. Hiruzen's expression turned somber as he looked at Minato, his heart heavy with the knowledge of what his beloved village had done to Minato's son, Naruto. The air between them thickened with unspoken words and shared regrets. Minato, with a pained expression, addressed Hiruzen, acknowledging the hardships Naruto had faced and the darkness he had been led into. His voice was filled with sorrow, burdened by a father's guilt for not being there to guide his son. The statement lingered, a somber acknowledgement of the complex web of decisions, sacrifices, and consequences that had shaped the lives of everyone involved, especially Naruto's. Orochimaru prepared the three Hokage for battle, stripping away the effects that death had had on their bodies and erasing their personalities. He was eager to begin their deadly dance. Meanwhile, Yuram had dealt with several sand and sound shinobi, using their remains for cooking while also preparing regular food. Excitement filled Yuram as thoughts of Sukuna-sama enjoying the meal danced in their mind. In another part of the arena, Naruto urged Genma to assist the other Leaf Ninja, who complied without argument. With Genma out of the way, Naruto created a barrier around the arena. With a thunderous roar, Shikaku surged forward, summoning a swirling maelstrom of sand to engulf Naruto. The cursed king responded with a flick of his wrist, conjuring flames that danced through the sandstorm, transforming the grains into glass before they could reach him. He taunted Shikaku, expressing disappointment in the beast's attack. Angered, Shikaku prepared to unleash his next assault, summoning a tidal wave of sand to overwhelm Naruto. Yet, Naruto remained undeterred. With a surge of cursed energy, he sliced through the sand particles, rendering them into nothingness. Recognizing the need for a stronger approach, Shikaku tapped into its magnet release, manipulating iron-rich sand to create a magnetic field aimed at immobilizing Naruto. For a moment, it seemed as if Naruto was caught, but with a disdainful snort, he unleashed a powerful burst of cursed energy, disrupting the magnetic field and freeing himself. Escalating the battle, Naruto's eyes glowed as he invoked his fire manipulation abilities, creating a swirling inferno that threatened to engulf Shikaku. The One-Tail countered by generating a massive sand shield, but the intense heat began to turn the outer layers into brittle glass. As the fire settled, Shikaku bellowed in rage, his form surrounded by a cyclone of wind and sand. He unleashed a barrage of wind release techniques, aiming to batter Naruto into SBMSN. However, the cursed king smirked, effortlessly evading the onslaught. As the battle reached its climax, the air crackled with the power unleashed by both formidable entities. Shikaku gathered an immense amount of chakra, the energy around him pulsating with raw potential. With a roar that echoed across the desolate landscape, he unleashed the tailed beast bomb, a sphere of condensed chakra hurtling towards Naruto. Standing confidently against this overwhelming force, Naruto concentrated his cursed energy and chakra, channeling it into the creation of Fuga, a formidable flame arrow. His eyes gleamed with anticipation as he infused the arrow with intensity, turning its fiery hue into a blinding white. With a fluid motion, he released Fuga, a blazing comet SRNG across the battlefield to meet the tailed beast bomb head-on. The collision was monumental, an apocalyptic convergence of fire and raw chakra illuminating the sky and casting long shadows over the ruins. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the ground, upturning the earth. For a moment, it seemed as though the two attacks might cancel each other out, but Naruto's Fuga began to overpower the tailed beast bomb. His mastery of cursed techniques was evident as Fuga not only withstood the blast but began to consume it. The flame arrow, now swirling with the remnants of Shikaku's attack, transformed into an even larger, dark flame, barreling towards the One Tail with unstoppable force. Realizing the impending doom, Shikaku attempted to brace himself, but the power of Naruto's Fuga was beyond any defense he could muster. As the dark flame engulfed Shikaku, the beast's cries were drowned out by the roaring inferno. When the flames finally subsided, Naruto stood victorious, the landscape around him transformed into a smoldering testament to his power. Gaara lay on the ground, on the brink of death, surrounded by glass. Temari and Kankuro rushed to Gaara, witnessing the destruction of the barrier caused by the clash of the two attacks. Tears welled in Temari's eyes as she cradled Gaara, her heart breaking at the sight of her younger brother in such a state. Kankuro stood beside her, his expression a mix of relief and sorrow, grateful to have reached Gaara in time yet pained to see him so vulnerable. Gaara, weak and confused, questioned why they would care for him after the way he had treated them. Temari gently chided him, expressing that he was her baby brother and that she would be sad if he got hurt. Kankuro silently agreed, his presence a powerful affirmation of their bond. The revelation that his siblings held such love for him, despite his past cruelties, visibly shocked Gaara. It was a moment of awakening, realizing he was more than the monster he had always believed himself to be, he was loved. Observing the family reunion from a distance, Naruto recognized Gaara's valuable potential and approached the siblings, announcing his decision to save Gaara's life. Temari and Kankuro, wary but desperate, inquired about the price. Naruto declared that he wanted Gaara to surpass Shikaku and to become his servant, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. He could not allow someone with such potential to die, it would be a waste. The proposition was steep, but the alternative was losing Gaara forever. With a heavy heart, Gaara agreed to serve Naruto, hoping to live another day and perhaps, in time, understand the true depth of his siblings' love for him. Naruto then used his reverse curse technique, a display of power that healed Gaara's wounds, bringing him back from the brink of death. The process was both awe-inspiring and terrifying to witness, as cursed energy flowed from Naruto to Gaara. Temari and Kankuro expressed their gratitude to Naruto, though they remained cautious of the powerful curse user. For them, Gaara's life was priceless, and they would navigate the consequences of his servitude to Naruto in time. As Gaara regained his strength, the realization of his newfound servitude weighed heavily on him. Yet, within that burden, there was also a flicker of hope. Gaara now understood that he was part of a family, one that loved him unconditionally. With Naruto's intervention, he was given a chance not only at life but at redemption and perhaps, one day, at true freedom. Gaara inquired about his orders, and Naruto instructed him not to interfere with the battles taking place, a directive that also applied to Temari and Kankuro. Meanwhile, two formidable forces prepared to face off. On one side stood Hiruzen Sarutobi, Mei Terumi, and Anoki, their expressions steely and determined. Across from them, Orochimaru, Minato Namikaze, Hashirama Senju, and Tobirama Senju stood, each aware of the deadly potential of their opponents. Hiruzen's team knew they faced a daunting challenge, but they were not ones to back down from a fight. Hiruzen declared that they would show their strength as Kage, while Orochimaru replied with a sinister grin, hinting at the battle to come. With a signal from Orochimaru, chaos erupted. Minato vanished in a blur of speed, reappearing behind Anoki with a kunai poised to strike. However, the third Tsuchikage was ready, summoning a sturdy stone wall to intercept the attack, sending Minato reeling backward. I unleashed a barrage of lightning-infused punches at Minato, each strike crackling with power. Minato deftly dodged and weaved through the onslaught, his movements fluid and precise. Meanwhile, Mei Terumi engaged Hashirama in a fierce duel of elemental jutsu. Hashirama's wooden constructs clashed with Mei's scorching lava, creating a swirling vortex of destruction. Mei's determination burned bright as she unleashed torrents of molten rock, pushing Hashirama on the defensive. Tobirama, ever the tactician, assessed the battlefield. Spotting an opening in Hiruzen's defenses, he unleashed a barrage of water-based jutsu, seeking to exploit vulnerabilities. But Hiruzen was not to be outdone. With a series of hand seals, he summoned forth a swirling tempest of wind, dispersing Tobirama's attacks with ease. As the battle raged on, each side unleashed their most devastating techniques, the ground trembling beneath their feet with each explosion of chakra. Amidst the chaos, Anoki stepped forward, his eyes ablaze with determination. With a mighty roar, he unleashed his dust release, sending a wave of pulverizing force toward Orochimaru and his reanimated soldiers. The earth trembled as the dust release tore through their ranks, disintegrating everything in its path. Orochimaru managed to escape the blast, now alone with his army, but he was not easily defeated. With a sinister grin, he summoned forth a legion of serpentine creatures, each poised to strike at Hiruzen's team. However, Hiruzen's team rallied together, their bonds of friendship and camaraderie stronger than ever. With a final, coordinated assault, they unleashed a barrage of devastating techniques, overwhelming their adversaries with sheer power and determination. As the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded, Hiruzen's team stood victorious, their chests heaving with exhaustion but their spirits unbroken. Seeing the loss of their leader, the Sound Four retreated. The fighting in the crowds had finished, and the forces that attacked the village were dealt with by Jiraiya, Uram, and other Leaf shinobi. A few days later, in a secluded chamber within the hidden Leaf village, the leaders of the major shinobi nations convened for a crucial summit. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, stood with a solemn expression, his wise eyes reflecting the weight of recent events. Beside him were Ai, the fourth Raikage, his muscular frame radiating strength, Anoki, the third Tsuchikage, whose experience and wisdom were unmatched, and Mei Terumi, the fifth Mizukage, her determination as fiery as her lava techniques. Representing Tsunagakure, Baki stood humbly, bearing the burden of his village's actions. The air was thick with tension and unspoken grievances as they gathered around the large, circular table. The memories of the recent battles still fresh in their minds, each leader carried their own concerns and hopes for the future. Baki stepped forward, bowing respectfully before addressing the assembled Kage. His voice, though steady, carried a tone of deep regret. He explained the reasons behind Tsunagakure's actions and offered sincere apologies. The room fell silent as Baki recounted the dire circumstances that had driven the Sand Village to ally with Orochimaru. He explained that Tsunagakure had been facing severe financial difficulties for some time. Their Wind Daimyo, in attempts to cut costs, began outsourcing missions to Konohagakure, finding it cheaper than utilizing their own forces. This decision deprived them of essential funds needed to support their village and its shinobi. He paused, letting the gravity of the situation sink in. To sustain themselves, they resorted to trading gold and developing new jutsu, but these measures were not enough. Their village was on the brink of collapse, and in desperation, they saw an alliance with Odogakure as their only chance for survival. Hiruzen's eyes softened with understanding, though the weight of disappointment remained. Ai crossed his arms, his expression a mix of sternness and contemplation. Anoki nodded slowly, acknowledging the difficult position Tsunagakure had found itself in. Mei's gaze was sharp but empathetic, recognizing the harsh realities that often forced difficult decisions. Baki continued, his voice filled with remorse. He acknowledged that their actions had caused great harm and suffering, and for that, they were deeply sorry. They acted out of desperation, but that did not excuse the betrayal of their allies and the chaos that ensued. The room remained silent as the leaders absorbed Baki's words. After a moment, Hiruzen spoke, his tone measured and reflective. He acknowledged that the hardships Tsunagakure faced were not unknown to them. While their actions were misguided, they must also recognize the pressures and challenges that led to such decisions. Ai's stern expression softened slightly as he added that it was clear the situation was dire. Moving forward, they must ensure that no village feels forced into such alliances out of desperation. They needed to support each other to prevent such conflicts from arising. Anoki, ever the strategist, prepared to contribute to the discussion. The summit served as a reminder of the interconnectedness of the villages. Economic stability and mutual support were crucial for peace. Mei expressed her determination, emphasizing the importance of using this opportunity to strengthen bonds and prevent future misunderstandings. Trust and cooperation among the villages were essential. Hiruzen raised his hand, indicating he had more to add. He acknowledged the explanation but insisted on reparations for the damages caused. Sunagakure would be responsible for compensating Konoha for the harm inflicted during the invasion. Baki nodded solemnly, accepting this responsibility and assuring that the reparations would be paid in full. Hiruzen continued, stating that he would personally speak to the Wind Daimyo about the issue of mission outsourcing. It was vital that missions were distributed more fairly, ensuring Sunagakure received the necessary funds to sustain itself. He vowed to do everything in his power to persuade the daimyo to send more missions their way. Baki expressed his gratitude, and the room fell silent, absorbing the weight of Hiruzen's declaration. This decisive move aimed to hold Sunagakure accountable while addressing the root of the problem, ensuring a more balanced and fair system for all. An hour later, a new meeting was called, focusing on Naruto Uzumaki, who had recently displayed extraordinary powers and an unusual demeanor. This gathering aimed to discern Naruto's loyalties and address concerns regarding his newfound abilities and attitude. Before the meeting, Naruto and Yuram walked through the bustling streets of Konoha. As Naruto strolled through the village, his once familiar blue eyes had transformed into a chilling red, and his grin was unsettlingly wide. The atmosphere shifted dramatically, with whispers spreading among the villagers, their reactions a mix of fear, confusion, and disbelief. Children playing in the streets were quickly ushered away by their parents, who cast nervous glances over their shoulders. Shopkeepers paused in their tasks, some dropping what they held in shock. Conversations halted as people turned to stare, unable to look away from the unnerving sight of the boy they had once dismissed as the village outcast. The elderly murmured among themselves, speculating whether this transformation was a new threat or curse. Mothers clutched their children tighter, and young shinobi felt a chill run down their spines as Naruto's red eyes seemed to pierce through them, recalling every slight and whisper they had ever directed his way. The air grew tense with a sense of dread, and even the bravest among the villagers felt a knot of fear tightening in their stomachs. Naruto's presence had always been uneasy, but now, with this new, ominous aura, it became a source of outright terror. As Naruto and Yuram approached the stall of a mask vendor, the man behind the counter felt a shiver of recognition and fear. Memories of how he had once thrown a mask at Naruto flashed vividly in his mind. Seeing the boy's red eyes and dark grin twisted his features, causing the vendor's heart to pound in his chest. Naruto reached out with a deliberate motion and grabbed one of the masks. The vendor's breath hitched, his eyes wide with terror, unable to move as he watched Naruto's every action. The nearby villagers, sensing the tension, stopped to watch, their curiosity mingling with unease. With a swift motion, Naruto hurled the mask back at the vendor. The mask struck the man squarely, causing him to stagger backward, nearly knocking over his entire display. Gasps rippled through the crowd, the sudden action shocking them into silence. Naruto's dark smirk widened as he placed money on the table, declaring that they were even now. The vendor, shaking and pale, nodded frantically, too terrified to speak. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Naruto turned and walked away with Yuram, leaving behind an atmosphere thick with fear and awe. Yuram's comment about Naruto being soft and Naruto's calm reply about not killing needlessly only added to the villagers' bewilderment. They grappled with the realization that the boy they had once scorned and feared had returned with a power and presence that they could neither ignore nor fully understand. The village buzzed with anxious energy, each villager aware that Konoha would never be the same again. The meeting was held in the same chamber where the Kage had previously gathered. This time, the atmosphere was charged with uncertainty. Hiruzen Sarutobi, maintaining his usual calm demeanor, led the proceedings, though his eyes betrayed a hint of concern as he regarded Naruto. Hiruzen began by asking Naruto a series of questions to gauge his state of mind and intentions. He sought to understand Naruto's loyalty to the village. Naruto's response was measured, yet his words carried an underlying edge. He assured them that he would not retaliate against the village but made it clear that he remembered the faces of those who had treated him poorly. If they needed his help, he would not feel compelled to save them. Reactions around the room varied. The fourth Reikage, narrowed his eyes, his muscular frame tensing slightly. His bodyguards exchanged uneasy glances. Anoki, The third Tsuchikage rubbed his chin thoughtfully, while his bodyguards looked at Naruto with a mix of curiosity and concern. Mei Terumi, the fifth Mizukage, maintained her composure, though her bodyguards were more openly intrigued. Naruto then turned his attention to Anoki, mentioning an encounter with some of his stone ninja who had attempted to take his life. Anoki's eyes narrowed as he tried to read Naruto's intentions. The spiky blonde hair and determined eyes reminded him too much of Minato Namikaze. He finally expressed his apologies for the actions of his shinobi, stating they had acted without his knowledge or approval. Mei then addressed Yuram, asking if he would leave the Mist Village. Yuram responded firmly, stating that his allegiance to the mist had run its course, and he would serve his master again. Mei nodded, her gratitude evident, thanking him for his service and contribution in defeating Yagura. The mist owed him a great debt. Haku, with tears in her eyes, approached her uncle. Yuram embraced her, whispering words of encouragement and love, urging her to live her life to the fullest and reminding her of her strength and capability. Zabuza, always one for a challenge, stepped forward, expressing his desire to spar with Naruto. The Raikage nodded in agreement, signaling his support for the challenge. He declared his intention to test the strength of his rival's son, a competitive gleam in his eye as he looked at Naruto. Hiruzen was taken aback by Ice's request, while the Raikage smirked and turned to the Hokage, noting the resemblance to Minato with a smug expression. Naruto accepted the challenge with a determined nod, ready to spar with both of them. Before the meeting concluded, Naruto inquired about promotions, asking about the Chunin exams and who would be promoted. Hiruzen replied that the matter was still under discussion. Naruto offered his recommendations, suggesting Shino, Shikamaru, and Lee as deserving candidates for Chunin. With that, he left the chamber, leaving the Kage to their deliberations. After Naruto's departure, the Kage and their bodyguards remained, the room buzzing with renewed discussions. Hiruzen began to address the implications of Naruto's power and his stance, acknowledging that while his recommendations for Chunin were sound, they also needed to consider Naruto's potential and how the village would react to him. Anoki nodded in agreement, stating that Naruto's power was undeniable and that his control and decisions would shape not just Konoha, but all their villages. Mei suggested holding another Chunin exam soon to restore faith and unity among their villages, emphasizing the need to decide who would host it. However, Pragmatic concluded that they needed to ensure their alliances were strong, recognizing that Naruto's abilities could be both an asset and a threat, and they must guide him properly. As the Kage continued their discussions late into the night, they planned the future of their villages and the role that Naruto Uzumaki would play in it. The summit had not only addressed immediate concerns but had also set the stage for a new era of cooperation and vigilance among the shinobi world. As the days went by, the village of Konoha found itself in a whirlwind of activity. The Kages continued their discussions, laying the groundwork for a more united and cooperative future. Meanwhile, the people of the Leaf Village worked hard to rebuild their homes and lives, striving to restore the village to its former glory. Elsewhere, shinobi were dispatched on various missions to maintain peace and order, ensuring the village's security remained steadfast. Amidst this backdrop of rebuilding and diplomacy, Naruto, Haku, and Yuram found a moment of respite at Ichiraka Ramen. The aroma of rich broth and freshly made noodles filled the air as the trio settled at the counter. Yuram, ever courteous, bowed deeply to Ayam and Tuchi, expressing heartfelt gratitude for their unwavering kindness towards Naruto. Tuchi waved off the thanks with a warm smile, stating that it was no problem at all, as Naruto was like family to them. Ayam, with her usual cheerful demeanor, nodded in agreement, affirming that Naruto was always welcome there. Naruto leaned over the counter, flashing Ayam a mischievous grin and teasing her about how her ramen wasn't the only reason he kept coming back. Ayam giggled, her cheeks tinting a light pink, while Haku watched the interaction with a slight furrow in her brow, feeling a flicker of jealousy despite her efforts to maintain a calm exterior. Her feelings for Naruto were more than just friendly. Later, the sun hung high in the sky as Naruto and Zabuza stood in the center of the Chunin exam stadium. The arena, once marred by the epic battle between Naruto and Shikaku, had been meticulously repaired. The air was thick with anticipation as the Kages and their bodyguards observed from the sidelines, their expressions a mix of curiosity and expectation. Zabuza's voice cut through the silence, a mix of amusement and challenge evident in his tone as he recalled their last encounter when Naruto was still a novice ninja. Naruto met Zabuza's gaze with unwavering confidence, smirking as he acknowledged how far he had come since then. The battle commenced with both combatants assessing each other. Zabuza stood tall, his massive Kubikuro slung over his shoulder, eyes narrowing at Naruto. He moved first, swinging his enormous blade with surprising speed, aiming to strike Naruto down in one swift motion. Naruto sidestepped the attack, his speed far surpassing Zabuza's expectations. Using this momentum, he launched a counterattack, his fists and feet blurring as he engaged Zabuza in close combat. Zabuza's mastery of Kenjutsu was evident as he parried Naruto's blows with the flat of his blade, each clash sending sparks flying. Despite the heavy weapon, Zabuza's movements were precise and controlled, showcasing his incredible strength and skill. Naruto, undeterred, used his smaller frame to his advantage, ducking and weaving through Zabuza's defenses and landing several solid hits. The ground trembled under the force of their attacks, Zabuza's blade carving deep grooves into the earth while Naruto's strikes left craters. The crowd watched in awe as the two warriors showcased their physical prowess, each blow a testament to their years of training and battle experience. Recognizing the futility of overpowering Naruto in pure physical combat, Zabuza shifted his strategy. He leaped back, forming a series of rapid hand seals, and instantly, several water clones materialized around him, each a perfect replica of the demon of the mist. The clones fanned out, surrounding Naruto. Naruto braced himself as the water clones rushed in from all directions, each attacking with the same ferocity as the original. His reflexes were put to the test as he dodged and countered, his movements a blur. He dispatched several clones with ease, their watery forms dissolving upon impact, but the sheer number began to wear him down. Realizing he needed to change tactics, Naruto created several shadow clones of his own, turning the battlefield into a chaotic dance of clones. Spotting a weakness in the formation, Naruto focused his attacks on a single point, breaking through the ranks of water clones. With a burst of speed, he closed the distance to the original Zabuza. Zabuza smirked, acknowledging Naruto's tenacity, and then engulfed the battlefield in his signature hidden mist jutsu. The thick fog rolled in, obscuring everything from view and plunging the stadium into an eerie silence. The silence was deafening as Zabuza employed his silent killing technique. Naruto stood still, his senses heightened. A whisper of movement signaled an incoming attack, and Zabuza's blade grazed Naruto's arm, the first strike landing with precision. Relying on his enhanced senses, Naruto closed his eyes, focusing on detecting Zabuza's presence. He picked up the faintest sound of Zabuza's movement and swiftly turned to block the next attack with a kunai, sparks flying as steel met steel. Zabuza vanished into the mist again, only to reappear moments later, launching another silent attack. Naruto continued to parry and evade, each successful block earning him another small victory. As the battle progressed, his adaptation to the mist became evident. His counters grew more precise, and his movements more confident. He began to anticipate Zabuza's attacks, turning the tables on the silent assassin. Frustrated by Naruto's resilience, Zabuza decided to escalate the battle. He formed hand seals rapidly, unleashing a torrent of water release techniques. A massive water dragon bullet surged toward Naruto, its serpentine form coiling menacingly. In response, Naruto tapped into his cursed energy, using Dismantle to cut through the water dragon. The invisible slashes severed the aquatic beast midair, causing the crowd to gasp as it disintegrated into a harmless splash. Zabuza followed up with a water formation wall, creating a towering barrier of water to shield himself. Naruto's Dismantle technique cut through the wall effortlessly, proving to be a formidable counter to Zabuza's water-based defenses. Undeterred, Zabuza conjured a giant vortex of water, a swirling maelstrom aimed to engulf Naruto. With narrowed eyes, Naruto unleashed a barrage of Dismantle slashes, each one slicing through the vortex and dissipating its force. The battlefield became a chaotic display of water and invisible energy, each technique a testament to the combatant's prowess. Realizing that his water techniques were being countered effectively, Zabuza decided to up the ante. He formed another series of hand seals, summoning a massive tidal wave aimed directly at Naruto. The wave crashed toward him with unstoppable force. Unfazed, Naruto channeled his cursed energy into his hands, conjuring intense flames. He unleashed a powerful blast of fire, the heat evaporating the approaching wave and turning it into a cloud of steam. The crowd watched in awe as the steam rose, creating an otherworldly spectacle. Zabuza, refusing to relent, sent forth more water techniques, each one more powerful than the last. Naruto countered with his flame abilities, transforming the battlefield into a boiling cauldron of conflicting elements. The steam from the evaporating water created a thick fog, adding to the surreal atmosphere. Using the steam to his advantage, Naruto moved with blinding speed, appearing behind Zabuza. He unleashed a torrent of flames at point-blank range. Zabuza barely managed to form a water shield in time, the intense heat searing through the barrier and forcing him back. Knowing he needed to end the battle decisively, Zabuza prepared his ultimate water release technique. He channeled all his remaining chakra into a colossal water dragon, the beast towering above the stadium, its eyes gleaming with deadly intent. Naruto prepared his own ultimate move, gathering an immense amount of cursed energy, his body radiating with a dark, fiery aura. He conjured a massive flaming arrow, the tip glowing with intense heat. Zabuza's water dragon roared as it descended upon Naruto, the sheer force of its presence causing the ground to tremble. With a determined shout, Naruto released his flame arrow. The two techniques collided in midair, creating a blinding explosion of steam and fire. As the steam cleared, the crowd saw Naruto standing tall, his eyes still glowing with fierce determination. Zabuza, exhausted and out of chakra, acknowledged Naruto's incredible growth and power. He fell to his knees, a rare smile of respect crossing his lips before he collapsed. Naruto bowed slightly to Zabuza, showing his respect for the formidable opponent he faced. The Kages, their bodyguards, Kakashi, and Jiraiya looked on with admiration, recognizing the incredible power and potential that Naruto possessed. Zabuza reflected on Naruto's transformation, acknowledging that the young ninja had grown into a formidable warrior. He noted the strength in Naruto's eyes and the power he wielded, realizing that he was no longer the inexperienced ninja he once fought. Although he had lost, witnessing Naruto's growth felt almost worth it. Haku thought about Naruto's newfound strength, while Jiraiya recognized the kid's remarkable abilities. Anoki considered the implications of such power in Konoha, and Mei pondered the connection between Naruto and Yurom. Darui felt the need to stay vigilant, aware that a power like Naruto's could change everything. C and Kuratsuchi marveled at Naruto's abilities, while Akatsuchi expressed his admiration for the young ninja. The Raikage, threw aside his robes and jumped into the arena, his muscular frame and fierce expression conveying his readiness for battle. Before the fight commenced, Naruto raised his hand, signaling for a brief pause. The unexpected request drew curious glances from the onlookers. Standing across the arena, crossed his arms and raised an eyebrow, questioning the need for a timeout. Naruto's eyes widened slightly at I's words, making a mental note to ask Hiruzen about the Uzumaki clan later. Without further ado, I dismissed the notion of a timeout with a wave of his hand, ready to press on with the fight. Naruto nodded, preparing to see what the Raikage was capable of. I noted Naruto's remarkable strength against Zabuza but wanted to gauge his true capabilities through taijutsu. Without hesitation, I charged at Naruto with incredible speed and strength, initiating a fierce taijutsu battle. Naruto braced himself, ready for the onslaught. I's speed was astonishing, closing the distance in an instant. The Raikage's first attack was a powerful punch aimed at Naruto's stomach. Naruto blocked the blow, feeling the raw power behind it, and countered with a swift kick. The two exchanged blows in a rapid flurry of punches and kicks. I's strength and speed were overwhelming, but Naruto managed to keep up. As they clashed, Naruto incorporated cleave into his attacks. Each time he made physical contact with I, a slashing force erupted from his touch, cutting through ice defenses. I felt the sting of cleave, realizing that Naruto's taijutsu was far more dangerous than he anticipated. The arena shook with the force of their battle, the ground cracking under the pressure of their attacks. Seeing the damage inflicted by cleave, I decided to change tactics. He unleashed a barrage of water and lightning attacks at Naruto, each strike crackling with electrical energy. Naruto responded by using dismantle, generating invisible slashes that cut through ice attacks. The air filled with the sound of splashing water and crackling electricity as the two forces collided. Ice, water, and lightning techniques were powerful, but Naruto's precision with dismantle allowed him to neutralize each attack, cutting through the water before it could reach him. Ice frustration grew as he realized that Naruto was countering his every move. He acknowledged Naruto's extraordinary power but was determined not to be outdone. With a fierce resolve, I switched to using Earth Release, slamming his fists into the ground. Massive chunks of earth rose and hurled toward Naruto, while he simultaneously manipulated beams of electricity with his Storm Release. Naruto activated Blazing Cleave, a combination of two shrine techniques, Divine Flames and Slashes. His slashes became visible and infused with flames, and with a flick of his wrist, he unleashed fiery slashes that collided with ice, earth, and storm attacks, creating explosions of fire and debris. The arena was engulfed in flames and smoke as the two powerful techniques clashed. Ice, formidable earth, and storm attacks were met with Naruto's Blazing Cleave, which burned through them, leaving a trail of destruction. Recognizing the need to elevate his game, I activated his full lightning chakra mode. He felt the surge of power coursing through him, ready to demonstrate the true strength of the Raikage. His body crackled with electricity as he became a blur of motion, moving faster than the eye could follow. Ice's incredible speed allowed him to land a series of powerful blows on Naruto before he could react. Caught off guard by Ice's sudden increase in speed, Naruto felt the impact of each punch and kick, which sent shockwaves through his body. He realized he had to be on his guard. Ice strikes were too fast, and he needed to find a way to counter them. Ice's relentless assault left Naruto reeling, unable to keep up with the barrage of attacks. The Raikage's fists and feet became blurs of motion, hitting Naruto from every angle. The young ninja's defenses crumbled under the sheer force of Ice strikes, leaving him battered and bruised. Deciding to end the fight, I grabbed Naruto and lifted him high into the air, preparing for his devastating Liger Bomb. With a thunderous roar, he slammed Naruto headfirst into the ground, the impact shaking the area around them. I felt a sense of superiority, questioning if Naruto was truly as strong as he had been led to believe. Naruto lay on the ground, seemingly out for the count, while I wore a mocking smile. However, as Naruto stared up at the sky, memories of past battles flashed through his mind. He recalled the challenges he faced and how they pushed him to grow stronger. A smile spread across his face as he gathered his cursed energy and began the signs for his domain expansion, feeling exhilarated by the challenge I presented. Before he could complete the technique, I appeared in a blur and stomped down, but Naruto dissolved into a log. I recognized the cleverness of the substitution but was confident in his speed. From a distance, Naruto completed his sentence, activating his domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine. The arena transformed as Naruto's power surged. I charged at him, but this time he was met with a barrage of flames and slashes. The sheer force of Naruto's domain overwhelmed I, whose immense strength and speed were no match for the unavoidable attacks. As the flames and slashes tore through his defenses, I felt the weight of defeat. Naruto stood victorious as the dust settled, his body battered but his spirit unbroken. I lay on the ground, defeated but with newfound respect for the young ninja. Observers reflected on Naruto's astonishing growth and the unsettling changes in his behavior. They recognized the potential for greatness within him, but also the danger of unchecked power. As Naruto got up, he activated his reverse cursed energy, healing all the damage he had taken from both battles in an instant. This shocked everyone present, including the Kages and their bodyguards. He approached Hiruzen, expressing the need to talk. Hiruzen, still processing the astonishing display of power, nodded and led Naruto to his office. In the Hokage's office, Hiruzen began to answer Naruto's questions. He explained that Naruto's parents' home had been destroyed during the Nine-Tails attack and that the Uzumaki clan was known for their mastery of Fuinjutsu, large chakra reserves, and longevity. Naruto listened intently, absorbing every word and recalling the strength of his clan. Hiruzen continued, revealing that the Uzumaki clan had been targeted for their power, leading to their extinction, and that they were closely allied with the Senju clan. Naruto's interest peaked as he asked if the Senju clan was also extinct. Hiruzen confirmed that there was one member left, Tsunade, a legendary kunoichi. A slow smile spread across Naruto's face as he remembered his encounters with Tsunade. He then inquired about available homes in the Senju compound, expressing his desire to leave his current living situation. Hiruzen nodded, confirming that the Senju compound had been well maintained. Naruto expressed his gratitude to Hiruzen and left the office, feeling a renewed sense of purpose and pride in his heritage. The next day, as Naruto and Yuram walked through the village, they were approached by Mei Terumi, the Mizukichi. She requested a moment of privacy with Naruto, her voice soft yet commanding. He agreed, and they found a secluded spot. Mei's demeanor was both professional and inviting as she expressed her desire to get to know him better, her eyes sparkling with interest. Naruto felt a mix of curiosity and amusement at her words and was pleased by the attention. As the days passed, Naruto and Mei's relationship deepened. Their initial flirtations evolved into meaningful conversations, and they began spending more time together, sharing their thoughts and feelings. One day, in the heart of his new home, Naruto and Mei found themselves in a moment charged with anticipation. The air around them crackled with energy as they stood close, aware that their connection was growing stronger. Mei playfully challenged Naruto to demonstrate his skills, and he confidently assured her that he had much to show. Their chemistry ignited as they shared a passionate kiss, drawing closer to one another. Naruto's hands found their way to Mei's waist, pulling her in, while she wrapped her arms around his neck, deepening their embrace. The kiss was filled with urgency, reflecting the desires they had both held for so long. As they broke apart, Naruto lifted Mei effortlessly, her laughter ringing in the air as he carried her to his bedroom. They exchanged glances filled with anticipation, and Naruto leaned down, his hands gently exploring her form, tracing the contours of her body. Mei gasped softly at his touch, encouraging him to continue. With a sense of tenderness, they began to remove each other's clothing, their movements synchronized and gentle. Soon, they stood before each other, both feeling a sense of vulnerability and excitement. Naruto's gaze was filled with admiration as he took in Mei's beauty, and he lowered himself beside her, his hand caressing her gently. Mei responded to his touch with a soft sigh, her body arching toward him. They shared a moment of playful teasing, each encouraging the other to explore and enjoy their connection. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as they reveled in the intimacy they were creating together. As their bond grew stronger, they continued to share tender moments, each one filled with warmth and understanding. They found joy in each other's company, their hearts entwined as they navigated the depths of their feelings. "Your turn again," she whispered, her fingers tracing lazy circles on his chest. Without waiting for a response, Mei leaned in closer, her intentions clear as she engaged with him. Naruto felt a rush of excitement as he guided her, both of them eager to explore their connection further. That moment ignited a spark between them, and Mei smiled, her energy returning. She suggested they take it further, rolling onto her back and inviting him to join her. With a slow, deliberate movement, she welcomed him into her embrace. Their eyes locked, breaths quickening as they became one. Naruto groaned, feeling the warmth envelop him. He complimented her, expressing how amazing she felt. Mei began to move, her hips swaying gently, her eyes never leaving his. She expressed her desire, savoring the sensation of their closeness. As they moved together, the rhythm of their connection intensified, each movement filled with passion. Mei encouraged him, her body language urging him on. The sound of their movements echoed in the quiet room, a testament to their shared excitement. Mei's body responded to the growing intensity, and she felt waves of pleasure wash over her. They shifted positions, and Naruto took the lead, his hands guiding her as they explored this new dynamic. Mei urged him to go deeper, expressing her desire to feel every part of him. Naruto obliged, his movements becoming more powerful, driving them both toward a peak of pleasure. Mei's body trembled, and she felt herself nearing another climax. With each move, the connection between them deepened, and they both surrendered to the moment. After a brief pause, Mei expressed her need for a moment to catch her breath, but Naruto was eager for more. He wanted to feel their connection again and again. He repositioned himself, entering her once more with slow, deliberate movements, ensuring she felt every sensation. Mei's body responded eagerly, despite her exhaustion. She felt the pleasure building again, her sensitivity heightened. Naruto encouraged her to let go, to surrender to the pleasure they were creating together. As they continued, Mei experienced another wave of bliss, her body responding to the rhythm they had established. They shifted positions again, and Mei took control, riding him with abandon. Their movements became frantic, each of them lost in the moment. Together, they reached a climax, their bodies moving in perfect harmony. Mei collapsed onto Naruto's chest, breathless and satisfied. She expressed her exhaustion, and he smiled, wrapping his arms around her, cherishing the moment they had shared. After a brief rest, Mei offered to clean him up, her voice filled with warmth. Naruto watched her with admiration as she leaned in, her focus entirely on him. She took her time, ensuring every movement was gentle and deliberate, heightening the connection between them. As they shared this NTMT moment, Naruto felt a rush of affection for Mei. Their bond had deepened, and he couldn't help but smile at the journey they had embarked on together. Later, Haku finally gathered the courage to ask Naruto out. To her delight, he accepted, and their friendship quickly blossomed into something more profound. Yuram observed the unfolding events with approval, believing that no one was more deserving of Haku than his master. A few days later, the Kage departed from the Leaf Village, returning to their respective homes. The atmosphere in Konoha was changing, as Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, had decided it was time to retire. Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin, nominated Tsunade for the Hokage position, and Hiruzen agreed, encouraging Jiraiya to persuade her. Jiraiya sought out Naruto and Yuram, finding them at Ichiraku Ramen. Naruto eyed the newcomer with curiosity and bluntly asked who he was. Yuram recognized the man and explained that he was Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin. Intrigued, Naruto asked what Jiraiya wanted. Jiraiya smiled and mentioned that he was going to find Tsunade, as she needed to become the next Hokage. When Naruto questioned why he was being informed, Jiraiya expressed his desire for Naruto to accompany him, suggesting it would be good training and a change of scenery. After paying for their meal, Naruto and Yuram agreed to join Jiraiya, setting off for a new adventure. An hour later, chaos erupted in the village as Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hashigaki of the Akatsuki infiltrated Konoha, mirroring events from the original timeline. Kurenai and Asuma attempted to intercept them but were quickly overwhelmed. Kakashi arrived to assist but soon found himself at the mercy of Itachi's superior Sharingan. As Kakashi lay on the brink of unconsciousness, he managed to ask what Itachi was after. Itachi's cold voice revealed his intent to claim the Fourth's legacy. Realizing Kakashi knew too much, Itachi ordered Kisame to finish him off. Kisame charged at Kakashi, sword drawn, but at the last moment, Guy intervened, pushing Kisame back with a powerful kick. Assessing the situation, Itachi decided it was time to retreat, stating that reinforcements would arrive soon. The two Akatsuki members vanished, and Guy, noticing Kakashi's condition, took him to the hospital. Meanwhile, Naruto, Jiraiya, and Yuram remained unaware of the close call Kakashi had just experienced. As they ventured forth, the wheels of fate began to turn, leading Naruto toward an encounter with the Akatsuki. Later, Naruto lay sprawled on the ground, utterly defeated, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The once intense battleground now felt eerily quiet. He looked up at Itachi, his eyes filled with exhaustion and frustration. Itachi approached, kneeling beside the fallen warrior with a rare, almost paternal look in his eyes. He calmly told Naruto to stand proud, affirming that he was strong. Naruto's eyes widened in disbelief, the words echoing in his mind, reminiscent of a distant memory. Tears welled up in his eyes as he stammered, questioning whether Itachi truly believed in his strength. Itachi nodded solemnly, acknowledging Naruto's incredible resilience despite his defeat. Overcome with emotion, Naruto burst into tears, expressing his struggle and frustration. Itachi, taken aback by this reaction, awkwardly patted Naruto on the back, assuring him that it was okay to cry sometimes. As Naruto calmed down, he expressed gratitude, realizing that Itachi was not as intimidating as he had been led to believe. Yuram arrived at the scene, shocked to see Naruto in such a state. Itachi, noticing the unusual situation, acknowledged it with a small smile. Naruto wiped his eyes and assured Itachi that he could stand, determination replacing his earlier despair. Kisame, observing the scene with disbelief and amusement, couldn't resist a final jab, suggesting they should hug it out next time. Naruto, still teary-eyed, shot back with defiance. Yuram remained in shock, struggling to comprehend the surreal scene. Itachi, now with a rare smile, instructed Kisame that they had work to do. As the two Akatsuki members prepared to leave, Naruto called out, vowing to become stronger. Itachi paused, glancing back to express his confidence in Naruto's potential. With that, they vanished into the shadows, leaving Naruto standing tall, proud, and more determined than ever. Yuram shook his head in disbelief, still processing the extraordinary encounter. During their journey, Jiraiya took every opportunity to impart wisdom to Naruto, hoping to guide him back toward the light. He turned to Naruto with a serious expression, addressing concerns about his recent behavior, which had become darker and more ruthless. Naruto's eyes flickered with defiance, dismissing the notion that he needed to change. Jiraiya sighed deeply, understanding the weight of Naruto's struggles. He shifted the conversation to training, introducing a technique created by Naruto's father, Minato, called the Rasengan. Naruto's eyes widened at the mention of his father, intrigued by the powerful jutsu that Minato had not fully completed. He wanted to add elemental chakra to it but never got the chance. Naruto absorbed this information, his mind racing. He wondered if he could truly complete it. Jiraiya smiled, believing in Naruto's potential. He expressed confidence that Naruto could surpass his father. True to his word, Naruto mastered the Rasengan in just 2 days. On the second day, he infused his divine flames into the Rasengan, significantly amplifying its power. The sphere of energy crackled with intense heat, glowing ominously. As he perfected it, an idea struck him. What if he combined Cleave with the Rasengan? The thought of activating Cleave upon impact made Naruto grin with anticipation. Jiraiya had also offered to teach Naruto the summoning technique. However, Naruto surprised him by declining, stating simply that he didn't need it. Instead, he casually summoned some of his 10 shadows. Jiraiya could only stare in awe as Naruto's shadows materialized, creatures of immense power and presence. He muttered in amazement, recognizing Naruto's unique abilities. The trio arrived at Tanzakagai, the lively streets bustling with life. As they walked, a beautiful woman caught Jiraiya's eye, winking at him. His lecherous grin spread wide across his face as he declared that he had some research to do, hurrying after the woman. Naruto rolled his eyes, while Yuram remained impassive, his focus sharp as he scanned their surroundings. Something felt off, and a prickling sensation at the back of Naruto's neck told him they were being watched. He turned to Yuram, murmuring a command. Yuram nodded, his expression unreadable but alert. Without another word, the two broke into a run, darting through the streets and leading their unseen pursuers away from the crowded town. They moved with purpose, every twist and turn deliberate, until they found themselves in the dense, quiet forest surrounding Tanzakagai. Naruto stopped abruptly, turning to face the trees. His voice rang out, clear and confident, demanding their presence. The silence was broken by the rustling of leaves as two figures emerged from the shadows. Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hashigaki, two infamous missing nin, stood before them. Yuram asked coldly what the two dangerous missing nin wanted with them. Kisame grinned, though his eyes were anything but friendly. He acknowledged Uram, revealing that their visit was not friendly and that they were after the Jinchuriki. His gaze shifted to Naruto, who met it with defiant eyes. Naruto pointed at Kisame, instructing Uram to take him. With that, Naruto turned and bolted away, Itachi quickly following after him. Uram remained behind, facing Kisame. The atmosphere between them grew tense, thick with unspoken words. Kisame's grin faded, replaced by a rare expression of genuine emotion. He expressed a reluctance to fight an old comrade. Uram, ever smug, responded with a derisive chuckle, reminding Kisame of their comrades he had harmed. Kisame's expression darkened as he recalled a bitter memory of a harrowing mission, where he had been forced to eliminate his own comrades under orders from his master, only to later discover that his master was the true traitor. His voice was a low growl as he explained that he had his reasons and that he had grown to detest liars more than anything else. Uram's expression remained smug, but there was a flicker of something darker in his eyes. He could see that Kisame genuinely didn't want to kill him, but that meant nothing in the face of his loyalty to Naruto. His voice turned cold as he declared that anyone who came after his master would pay the price, regardless of their past. Kisame's gaze hardened, and with a solemn look, he removed Samahata from his back, the massive, scaled sword humming with latent energy. There was a moment of silence, a calm before the storm, as the two warriors prepared for their inevitable clash. The two former mist ninja squared off, the clash between them unavoidable as the tension in the air snapped. Meanwhile, deeper in the forest, Naruto and Itachi were preparing for their own battle, one that would test the limits of both their abilities. The air was thick with anticipation as Naruto and Itachi faced each other, ready for an epic confrontation. Both combatants stood still, their eyes locked in a silent challenge. Without a word, they sprang into action, their bodies blurring with speed. Naruto's fists flew at Itachi with blinding speed, but Itachi met him blow for blow. Naruto's immense strength and speed began to push Itachi back, but Itachi's superior experience showed as he deftly blocked and countered Naruto's attacks. Suddenly, Itachi leaped back, flicking his wrists. Shuriken flew towards Naruto, and with quick hand signs, Itachi multiplied the shuriken using a technique. Naruto prepared to intercept them, but in that split second he felt his body seize up. Itachi's genjutsu had taken hold, freezing Naruto in place. The shuriken struck Naruto, and he felt the impact as they embedded in his flesh. His mind swirled in the depths of Itachi's illusion, the world around him warping and twisting with dark shadows and haunting images. With a burst of chakra, Naruto broke free from the genjutsu, eyes blazing with fury. He ripped the shuriken from his flesh and tossed them aside, summoning shadow clones that surrounded Itachi from all sides. The clones attacked in unison, their movements synchronized, creating a whirlwind of punches and kicks. Itachi effortlessly countered the clones, his Sharingan predicting their every move. He weaved through the attacks, dispatching the clones with precise strikes. Each clone dispersed with a puff of smoke, but Naruto continued to press the attack, his real self hidden among the clones. The real Naruto leaped high into the air, channeling his chakra into a Rasengan. He descended upon Itachi, the spiraling sphere of chakra aimed at his opponent. Itachi, however, saw through the ruse and sidestepped the attack, countering with a fire-style technique. Small fireballs erupted from his mouth, targeting Naruto and his remaining clones. Naruto dodged the fireballs with acrobatic flips and twists, his clones sacrificing themselves to shield him from the worst of the flames. He landed on the ground, his eyes narrowed slightly. Naruto summoned Nu and Divine Dog. Totality. Nu flocked to the skies, its form crackling with lightning, while the Divine Dog charged at Itachi, its fangs bared. The ground trembled under the powerful beast's steps, and Nu's ominous presence loomed over the battlefield. Itachi's Sharingan spun faster, keeping up with the dog's ferocious attacks and Nu's lightning strikes from above. The Divine Dog lunged, jaws snapping at Itachi, who sidestepped with precision and landed a counterstrike with a kunai. Nu's lightning bolts scorched the ground, forcing Itachi to constantly move, his Sharingan predicting the trajectory of each bolt. Naruto joined the fray, his movements a blur as he darted in and out of the shadows cast by Nu's storm. He generated invisible slashes with his cursed energy, each one cutting through the air with lethal precision. He managed to land several powerful hits on Itachi, who then burst into a flock of crows. The crows flew around Naruto, their beady eyes casting a powerful genjutsu. Trapped in the illusion, Naruto found himself in a nightmarish landscape where visions of those he cared for suffering echoed in his mind. The pain and despair threatened to overwhelm him, but he clenched his fists, focusing his mind. With sheer willpower, he shattered the illusion, his eyes blazing with fury. Itachi reformed, his eyes cold and calculating. The two Shikigami resumed their assault, but Itachi used wind release, great breakthrough to counter their attacks, sending powerful gusts of wind that disrupted their movements. Nu's lightning was scattered by the wind, and the divine dog struggled against the force. Without warning, Naruto appeared behind Itachi, his hands glowing with cursed energy. He landed a black flash on Itachi. As his fist connected, a powerful explosion erupted, sending Naruto flying. His body crashed into the ground, skidding to a halt with a trail of dust. Determined, Naruto dismissed Divine Dog and summoned Round Deer and Max Elephant. The Round Deer healed Naruto's wounds with its restorative energy, its presence calming and serene amidst the chaos. Max Elephant trumpeted, its massive form casting a shadow over the battlefield as it stomped its feet, ready for battle. Naruto merged Nu, Max Elephant, and Round Deer into a single formidable Shikigami, combining the powers of lightning, water, and healing. The air crackled with electricity as Nu's power surged through the merged Shikigami, while the ground shook under its footsteps. The merged Shikigami and Naruto marched towards Itachi, their combined cursed energy creating an aura of overwhelming strength. In response, Itachi created a clone. The two Itachis moved in perfect synchronization, their Sharingan predicting Naruto's every move. Naruto engaged Itachi, using feints and swift movements to create openings for his blazing cleave. The slashes of cursed energy cut through the air, each one leaving a trail of fiery destruction. The battlefield became a chaotic dance of elements. The clone countered with a flurry of kunai, each one aimed with precision. The Shikigami's lightning deflected the kunai, while Max Elephant's trunk swatted them aside. The clone's Sharingan tried to keep up, but the relentless assault proved too much. The combined might of the Shikigami overwhelmed the clone, causing it to disperse into a puff of smoke. The Shikigami joined Naruto in his battle against Itachi, their power magnified by their unity. Kisame's sharp eyes locked onto Uram's, the tension between them palpable. Kisame expressed his reluctance to fight an old comrade, his voice deep and resonant, hinting at regret. Uram's lips curled into a smug smile, reminding Kisame of their past, where he had taken the lives of their comrades. Uram's voice was cold, piercing through Kisame's attempt at peace. With a solemn look, Kisame issued his final warning, urging Uram to stand down. Uram's expression darkened, declaring that anyone who threatened their master would face consequences, regardless of their past friendship. Kisame sighed, a look of resignation crossing his face as he removed Samehada from his back, accepting the inevitable clash. The battle commenced with Uram weaving their hands through the air, summoning a barrage of glacial spikes from the ground. The jagged ice shot toward Kisame with incredible speed. Kisame evaded nimbly, his agility defying his massive frame. Each spike that came too close was parried by Samehada, the sword absorbing the kinetic energy but unable to devour the cursed energy within the ice. As Kisame closed the distance, Uram moved their hand forward, aiming to make contact with Kisame's flesh using their frozen touch. Kisame anticipated the move and countered, sidestepping and bringing Samehada down in a powerful arc Uram barely managed to dodge. Realizing the futility of close combat, Kisame performed a series of hand seals, summoning a massive wave of water that flooded the area. Both combatants utilized the water walking technique, their feet skimming the surface as they continued their duel. Kisame took advantage of the newly created aquatic battlefield, launching a water shark bullet technique. The water shark surged toward Uram, who responded with a cryogenic blast, freezing the projectile midair. Kisame charged again, his movements fast and powerful. Yuram evaded with grace, his feet barely disturbing the water's surface. He retaliated with a swift combination of kicks and punches, his limbs reinforced with cursed energy. Kisame blocked with Samahata, the sword's scales rippling with each impact. Sensing an opportunity, Yuram created an ice prison around Kisame. The intricate structure of ice formed instantly, trapping Kisame within its confines. Yuram shattered the prison. Kisame emerged from the water and unleashed the water vortex technique, but the swirling water was stopped by Yuram's cryogenic blast. The water churned violently as Kisame manipulated it to his advantage, sending water clones to attack Yuram from multiple directions. Yuram countered by summoning glacial spikes to impale the clones, each spike creating a splash of water as it found its mark. Kisame's eyes narrowed, recognizing Yuram's prowess. He performed another set of hand seals, summoning multiple water dragons. The dragons surged toward Yuram with their aquatic fangs bared. Yuram leaped into the air, activating his ice armor to protect himself. As the dragons collided, Yuram landed gracefully on the water's surface, his ice armor gleaming. Kisame followed up with the 5-feeding shark technique, each shark swimming through the water with deadly precision. Yuram dodged and countered with a blizzard barrage, creating a storm of ice shards that hurled at Kisame and his sharks. Frustrated, Kisame decided to make the water rise and fall violently. Kisame took advantage of the chaos, closing the distance once more. He swung Samahata with lethal precision, aiming to strike Yuram. Yuram ducked and weaved, his ice armor taking glancing blows but holding firm. He launched a counterattack with a flurry of punches, each one carrying the power to freeze on contact. Kisame blocked and parried, his muscles straining as he fought to keep up with Yuram's relentless assault. Seeing no other option, Kisame decided to use his trump card. He created a large water prison, trapping both himself and Yuram within. Kisame fused with Samahata, his form becoming more shark-like. He attacked Yuram with great agility, throwing devastating punches and snapping his jaws at him. Yuram's movements became sluggish as they began to drown, their ice armor cracking under the pressure. Summoning the last of his strength, Yuram used the reverse curse technique to heal his injuries, his flesh regenerating at an accelerated rate. Kisame, seeing this, decided to end the fight with his 1,000-feeding sharks technique. Sharks appeared throughout the water prison, their jaws snapping hungrily as they closed in on Yuram. Yuram responded in kind, making the signs for his domain expansion, Frozen Requiem. Before the sharks could reach him, the entire water prison and its inhabitants were instantly frozen, Kisame included. The icy domain shimmered with deadly beauty. As the icy expanse of the Frozen Requiem dissipated, Yuram stood amidst the frozen remnants of Kisame's final attack. Kisame, encased in ice, struggled to move, his once mighty form now brittle and vulnerable. Yuram stepped closer, his expression unreadable. With a solemn tone, Yuram bid farewell to Kisame, his voice carrying both gravity and resolve. Without hesitation, Yuram's hand surged forward, delivering the final blow that shattered Kisame into countless shards of ice. The monster of the hidden mist was no more. The air in Konoha's council chamber was thick with tension. The topic at hand was this year's Chunin exams, an event that had sparked heated debate due to its unprecedented location. Kumogakure, the village hidden in the clouds. Hayashi Hyuga's voice cut through the murmurs, sharp and unyielding. He declared that he would not send Hinata to Kumo, not after what they did. Their attempt to kidnap her had cost his brother's life. He did not trust them, and he would not risk her safety in their territory. His words carried the weight of old wounds, the memory of Hizashi's sacrifice still fresh despite the years. Other clan heads nodded in agreement, their own concerns echoing his. Inoichi Yamanaka leaned forward, his brow furrowed. It was not just Hinata. Sending any of their genin, their children, into what could be a trap was reckless. Tsum Inazuka growled, her feral energy barely contained. Kiba was tough, but she would not throw him into a lion's den just to prove a point. Kumo had a history of playing dirty, and she did not trust their hospitality one bit. Shikaku Nara rubbed his chin thoughtfully, acknowledging the risk. Sending their genin into enemy territory without guarantees was a gamble they could not afford. Danzo Shimura, seated in the shadows, spoke up, his voice cold and calculated. Refusing to participate would send a worse message. It would tell their rivals, IW, Kumo, and even the smaller villages, that Konoha was weak and scared. Such a perception could invite aggression, perhaps even war. His single visible eye glinted with a predatory intensity. They could not afford to appear feeble in the eyes of the shinobi world. Shikaku's eyes narrowed, recognizing the truth in Danzo's words. He was not wrong. A show of weakness could embolden their enemies. But he was still not willing to send Shikamaru into a potential ambush just to save face. Shibi Aburame, his voice calm but firm, added that Shino was capable, but Kumo's history with Konoha was troubling. The risk outweighed the optics. Danzo's lips curled into a faint, calculating smile. He proposed a solution. His root operatives, his best, were trained for precisely these scenarios. They could shadow the genin and their jonin sensei, operating unseen to ensure their safety. Should Kumo attempt any treachery, his agents would neutralize the threat before it escalated. Hiruzen exhaled, the weight of his decision pressing heavily on his shoulders. After a long pause, he nodded. Danzo's operatives could accompany the teams, but they were to remain discreet. The genin must not know they were being watched. This was a test of their abilities, not a mission for Root to overshadow. Tsum bared her teeth, leaning toward Danzo. His men better do their job, or he would answer to her. If one hair on her son's head was harmed, she would hold him accountable. Danzo met her gaze unflinchingly, acknowledging her threat. His operatives would not fail. The council dispersed, the decision made. Konoha's genin would attend the Chunin exams in Kumo, under the unseen protection of Root. But in the hearts of the clan heads, unease lingered like a storm cloud on the horizon. The storm-racked cliffs and mountains outside Kumogakure loomed like jagged teeth against a sky torn by lightning. The second test of the Chunin exams, dubbed the Climb the Black Mountain, was a brutal survival challenge designed to push genin to their limits. The objective was clear: reach the summit with at least one Heaven Medallion and one Earth Medallion, obtained by defeating other teams carrying opposite medallions. The terrain was treacherous, and freezing rains stung exposed skin. Worse still were the natural hazards: wild lightning panthers, razor-winged storm hawks, and sudden rock slides that could crush the unwary. Team 7, consisting of Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sakura Haruno, navigated the perilous cliffs with grim determination. Their progress was hampered early on by an encounter with a mysterious grass ninja who, after a brief but intense skirmish, left a strange mark on Sasuke's neck. The curse mark, though they did not yet know its nature, sapped Sasuke's strength, leaving him pale and feverish, his movements sluggish. Sakura, torn between worry for Sasuke and the need to press forward, took on a leadership role, her sharp mind compensating for her teammates' struggles. As they climbed higher, the storms grew fiercer, lightning cracking like whips across the sky. It was then that they encountered a formidable threat: 3 teams of Kumo genin, 9 in total, their eyes gleaming with predatory intent. They moved with coordinated precision, clearly intent on eliminating the Konoha team and claiming their medallions. Naruto, despite his exhaustion, stood at the forefront, his orange jacket a defiant beacon against the gray cliffs. He declared that they would not get past him, kunai in hand, his blue eyes blazing with resolve. The Kumo nin sneered, their leader, a wiry girl with electric blue hair, crackling with static, mocked him, claiming that Konoha brats were out of their depth. The battle erupted in a frenzy of steel and sparks. Sasuke, despite his weakened state, fought with lethal precision, his Sharingan tracking the Kumo nin's movements. Sakura hurled shuriken and set traps while Naruto summoned clones. But the odds were brutal, 3 against 9, on hostile terrain, with Sasuke barely holding it together. In a critical moment, as a Kumo nin lunged at Sakura with a lightning-charged blade, Naruto threw himself in front of her. The blade struck him, and he collapsed, his eyes dimming as Sakura's scream echoed through the storm. She dropped to her knees beside him, her hands trembling as she tried to staunch the wound. Fueled by rage, Sasuke unleashed a flurry of fire jutsu, forcing the Kumo-nin back, but the damage was done. Naruto lay still, his breathing halted. The Kumo-nin pressed their advantage, sensing victory. But before they could finish Team 7, an unexpected intervention arrived. The Sound Team, consisting of Dosu, Zaku, and Kin. Their motives were far from altruistic. They had been ordered by the Grass Ninja, secretly Orochimaru, to test Sasuke's strength, particularly after the curse mark's application. Dosu's bandaged face twisted into a smirk as he declared they would handle the Kumo pests, leaving the Uchiha for themselves. The Sound Team's brutal efficiency turned the tide. Dosu's sound-based attacks disoriented the Kumo-nin, Zaku's air pressure blasts knocked them off balance, and Kin's Sunban struck with deadly accuracy. Within minutes, the Kumo teams were incapacitated, their medallions claimed. But the Sound Team's eyes remained fixed on Sasuke, their intent clear. They wanted a fight. Sakura stood protectively over Naruto's body, tears mixing with the rain. She warned them to stay back, her voice cracking. Sasuke, panting heavily, readied himself for another battle, his Sharingan flickering. As the real world froze, Naruto's consciousness plunged into darkness, then bloomed into a surreal landscape, a crimson-lit shrine draped in shadows, with a throne of bones at its center. Seated upon it was Ryomen Sukuna, Naruto's past self, the king of curses. His true form was terrifying: 4 arms, 2 faces, crimson eyes with black scara, and black tattoos snaking across his muscular frame. A malevolent aura radiated from him, the air heavy with the scent of blood and ash. Naruto stood before him, his orange jacket torn, his chest wound gone in this ethereal space. He demanded to know who Sukuna was and where he was. Sukuna's lips curled into a predatory grin, revealing sharp fangs. Naruto found himself in a dark, twisted realm, confronted by a sinister presence. The voice echoed around him, claiming to be Ryomen Sukuna, the king of curses, and revealing that this domain was woven into his very soul. Sukuna informed Naruto that he had died, but there was a way to return if he was willing to pay the price. Naruto's eyes widened in disbelief. He refused to accept that he was done. He had to protect Sakura and Sasuke and fulfill his dream of becoming Hokage. Sukuna's laughter filled the air, mocking Naruto's aspirations. He leaned closer, his crimson eyes filled with disdain, dismissing Naruto as a mere weapon bound to a village that had failed him. Naruto bristled at the insult, insisting that Konoha was his home and that he would prove he belonged there. Sukuna's grin widened, dripping with venom as he pointed out the harsh reality of Naruto's situation. He reminded Naruto of the disdain he faced from the villagers, who treated him like an outcast while praising those who were undeserving. Naruto's fists tightened, and he recalled the few who cared for him: the old man Hiruzen, Ayame, Tuchi, and Irika-sensei. They believed in him, and he was determined to keep pushing forward until others recognized his worth. Sukuna scoffed at this notion, questioning whether those scraps of kindness would ever lead to true acceptance. He painted a grim picture of the villagers' fear and hatred, suggesting they would gladly see him imprisoned if given the chance. Naruto shouted defiantly, asserting that he had friends now: Sakura, Sasuke, and Kakashi-sensei. They were his team, and he needed them just as they needed him. He refused to give up on them or the village, no matter how difficult it became. Sukuna paused, his gaze piercing as he dismissed Naruto's claims of friendship. He pointed out the flaws in Naruto's relationships, suggesting that they were merely chains holding him back. Despite Sukuna's taunts, Naruto's resolve remained. He acknowledged that his friends were not perfect, but they were trying. He couldn't abandon them. Sukuna's tone shifted, softening yet still laced with a sinister edge. He urged Naruto to embrace the power within him, to reject the chains of loyalty that bound him to the village. He painted a picture of Naruto as the reincarnation of a powerful being, encouraging him to rise against those who had wronged him. Naruto took a step back, his heart racing. He could not fathom tearing down Konoha, the place he called home. He had witnessed the joy of children playing and families laughing, and he wanted to protect that, not destroy it. Sukuna's laughter returned, chilling and cutting, as he reminded Naruto of his failure to protect himself, having died for someone who barely acknowledged him. Naruto's eyes shimmered with unshed tears as he expressed his desire to be seen for who he truly was, not as a monster. Sukuna's expression hardened, challenging Naruto to confront the reality of his situation. He reminded Naruto of the years of pain and how the villagers would use him until he was no longer useful. With Sukuna's power, he could rewrite his story and make them regret their treatment of him. As Naruto listened, the weight of Sukuna's words pressed heavily on his heart. Memories of loneliness and rejection flooded back, but so did thoughts of those who cared for him. He felt torn between the desire for acceptance and the exhaustion of fighting for those who seemed indifferent. Sukuna seized the moment, offering a path to power and freedom, urging Naruto to choose himself over the village that had never truly embraced him. Naruto's tears fell as he considered Sukuna's offer. He thought of the moments that had led him to this point, the pain, the struggles, and the fleeting connections he had made. Slowly, he raised his head, his blue eyes hardening with a newfound resolve. He made his decision, ready to embrace the power that awaited him. With a steady voice, he declared his choice, and Sukuna's triumphant grin revealed his satisfaction. As their forms blurred, a surge of crimson energy enveloped them, binding their souls together. The innate domain shattered, and time resumed. On the rain-soaked cliff, Naruto's lifeless body twitched, signaling the beginning of his resurrection and transformation. A pulse of crimson energy flared, and his chest wound began to close, flesh knitting together as if time rewound. His heart thumped, then roared to life. Slowly he rose, his movements fluid and predatory. Everyone froze: Sakura, Sasuke, the sound team, even the unconscious Kumo ninja. Naruto's appearance had shifted, a terrifying fusion of his former self and Sukuna's demonic essence. Naruto grinned, a wide, maniacal smile that revealed elongated canines. His laughter erupted, a chilling sound that reverberated through the storm, unnerving everyone. Sakura's breath caught, Sasuke's Sharingan spun frantically, and the sound team stepped back, their confidence faltering. He asked if they were ready for a massacre, his voice deeper and laced with Sukuna's malevolent edge. His crimson eyes swept over the group, promising chaos. As he spoke, a massive silhouette flickered behind him, a towering, four-armed demon, its presence suffocating. The air grew heavy with a malevolent aura, the storm itself seeming to bow to his will. Sakura clutched her kunai, torn between fear and hope. Sasuke gripped his sword, sensing a power he couldn't comprehend. The sound team exchanged uneasy glances, their mission now a dangerous gamble. The Black Mountain trembled, and the Chunin exams had just taken a deadly turn. The Black Mountain loomed like a jagged scar against the storm-racked sky, its cliffs battered by freezing rain and crackling with wild lightning. Naruto Uzumaki stood atop a blood-slicked outcrop, his orange jacket tattered, revealing a muscular frame etched with black tattoos. His crimson eyes, sharp and menacing with black scara, gleamed through the rain, a second set of smaller eyes beneath them pulsing faintly. Jagged lines crisscrossed his face, framing a vertical slit on his forehead like an unopened third eye. His nails, long and purple, dripped with rain. The silhouette of a four-armed demon flickered behind him, its malevolent aura suffocating the battlefield. His grin vanished as he locked eyes with the Kumo genin who had killed him, now stirring from unconsciousness. The ninja, a wiry boy with electric blue hair, groaned, unaware of the predator above him. In a blur, Naruto was upon him, his foot slamming down with bone-shattering force. The Kumo ninja's skull cracked, and his body twitched before going still. The brutality shocked everyone. Sakura's breath caught, Sasuke's Sharingan spun, and the sound team froze, their bravado faltering. Naruto smiled, his extra set of eyes gazing at the stunned onlookers. He announced it was time to start the slaughter, his voice a chilling blend of Naruto's cheer and Sukuna's malice, sending shivers through the storm-soaked air. The remaining Kumo genin scrambled to their feet, panic overtaking their training. They bolted, slipping on wet cliffs, desperate to escape the monster before them. Naruto chuckled, his laughter echoing like thunder, taunting them to run, as it just made the hunt more fun. With a snap of his fingers, 10 shadow clones materialized, their crimson eyes glowing through the rain. They scattered across the cliffs, moving with predatory grace, leaping between rocks and dodging lightning with acrobatic flips. The hunt was swift and merciless. The cliffs became a scene of chaos, blood mixing with rainwater, and severed limbs littering the ground. The clones' efficiency was horrifying, their laughter mirroring Naruto's. Naruto's attention turned to the sound team Dosu Kinyuda, Zaku Abomi, and Kintsuchi, who stood tense, their mission to test Sasuke now a dangerous gamble. He asked them if they were friend or foe, his voice deceptively calm, his four-armed silhouette looming larger. Dosu, his bandaged face unreadable, stepped forward, stating they were there to test the Uchiha, not him. Naruto's grin widened, his eyes glinting with sadistic glee, declaring them foes and a bad choice. Zaku, despite the panic clawing at his chest, summoned bravado, challenging Naruto. He attempted to blast him to pieces, but Naruto only chuckled, the sound low and menacing. He then shifted his gaze to Sasuke, who was slumped against a rock, pale and feverish from the curse mark and the storm's toll. He remarked that Sasuke looked terrible and that the others were stuck with him instead. With a snap, Naruto summoned another shadow clone, ordering it to get Sasuke and Sakura out of there. The clone scooped up Sasuke, who muttered incoherently, and grabbed Sakura, who protested, asking what was happening to him. The clone sprinted toward a distant cave, dodging rock slides with ease. Dosu lunged, aiming his resonating echo speaker to disrupt the clone with sound waves, but Naruto's glare stopped him cold. A pulse of cursed energy made the air heavy, and Dosu stumbled back, his resolve shaken. With Team 7 safe, Naruto crouched into a taijutsu stance, his body low and predatory. He declared it was time to dance, his voice a promise of chaos. The storm raged, lightning illuminating the blood-soaked cliffs as Naruto faced Team Dosu. Dosu took the lead, swinging his resonating echo drill into action. He struck his resonating echo speaker against his arm, sending sound waves rippling through the rain, aimed at Naruto's inner ear. The waves hit, and Naruto's vision blurred, blood trickling from his ears as vertigo threatened to topple him. But Naruto's lips curled into a grin. Positive energy flared around him, and his healing abilities kicked in, mending the damage in seconds. His ears stopped bleeding, his balance restored, and he laughed, unnerving Dosu. He charged, dodging Dosu's next sound wave with a flip, landing behind him. His claws slashed, tearing through Dosu's sleeve, but Dosu parried with his gauntlet, the metal sparking. Naruto grabbed Dosu's arm, triggering a glowing slash that cut deeply into Dosu's shoulder, leaving him injured but still standing. Dosu screamed, stumbling back, his face contorted with pain and desperation. With a trembling effort, he swung his injured arm, striking a nearby rock to amplify his resonating echo drill. The sound wave hit Naruto point blank, shaking his bones and causing fresh blood to drip from his ears. But his healing abilities flared again, mending microfractures and stabilizing his senses. Naruto countered with a knee strike to Dosu's chest, cracking ribs with a sickening sound, taunting him that he was smart but not smart enough. Dosu staggered, his gauntlet sparking faintly, his resolve crumbling. Naruto closed the gap, touching Dosu's neck and whispering a final farewell before unleashing another attack. Dosu fell, his body collapsing, leaving the gauntlet silent in a pool of blood. Zaku, pale with terror, roared to mask his fear, declaring Naruto was dead. He unleashed a powerful attack, but Naruto slid under it, claws digging into the wet stone for traction. He retaliated with a swift strike, sending invisible slashes toward Zaku, the storm continuing to rage around them. One cut Zaku's cheek, blood streaming. Another grazed his arm, exposing muscle. Zaku escalated, screaming as he unleashed extreme decapitating airwaves, a massive blast that obscured visibility as air and sound tore forward, shredding the ground. Naruto leaped through the storm, landing behind Zaku in a flash. He grappled Zaku's neck, claws sinking into flesh, and delivered a powerful slash that split Zaku vertically in an instant. The force of the strike ruptured Zaku's air tubes, causing a chaotic explosion of flesh and bone. Kin, trembling but defiant, threw Shadow Senbon, bells ringing to distract Naruto. She activated Bell Sound Clone, multiplying into illusory duplicates. Naruto's crimson eyes tracked the silent Senbon, dodging with inhuman reflexes. He unleashed Dismantle, the slashes shredding her wire strings and bells, silencing the genjutsu. The illusions vanished, leaving Kin exposed. In a panic, Kin hurled Poison Senbon, but Naruto caught one midair, his speed blinding. He rushed her, slamming her into a cliff with a series of taijutsu strikes. Claw slashes tore at her arms, an elbow crushed her jaw, and a kick to her stomach left her gasping. Blood dripped from her mouth as she whimpered for mercy. Naruto's chilling smile returned as he grabbed her throat. With a swift motion he ended her life, her body slumping as blood pooled around her Senbon, which scattered uselessly. The aftermath. Naruto stood amid the devastation, blood-soaked and grinning, the storm raging around him. The cliffs were a scene of chaos, with the remnants of his foes scattered across the ground. Naruto wiped blood from his face, his crimson eyes glowing through the rain. He felt a thrill of excitement, ready for more. He laughed, the sound echoing as distant cries signaled new targets. Chapter 2: The Crimson Hunt. The Black Mountain roared with the fury of 1,000 storms, its jagged cliffs slick with freezing rain and illuminated by lightning. Amid the chaos of the Chunin exam's second test, Naruto Uzumaki stood as a harbinger of destruction, his blood-soaked form a nightmare etched in crimson and black. Naruto's laughter echoed, a maniacal sound that drowned out the thunder. As his laughter faded, he noticed the shattered medallions at Dosu's feet, their symbols crushed in the chaos. His grin widened, a sadistic gleam in his eyes as he prepared for the hunt. He declared his intent to go hunting, promising a proper medallion hunt. The Black Mountain was a labyrinth of cliffs and chasms, teeming with genin teams scrambling to reach the summit with their medallions. Naruto's senses, sharpened by Sukuna's cursed energy, picked up their flickering presences. He cracked his knuckles, his four-armed silhouette flexing, and set off, a predator in pursuit of prey. Naruto descended a misty ravine, the air thick with fog and the stench of saltwater. 3 missed genin, a wiry swordsman, a kunoichi with water jutsu, and a hulking taijutsu specialist guarded a narrow pass, their heaven medallion glinting on the kunoichi spelt. They sensed his approach, but nothing prepared them for the monster that emerged. Naruto's taijutsu stance was low and predatory, his claws gleaming. He demanded the medallion, taunting them with a chilling smile. The swordsman charged, his blade flashing with water release, blade dance. Naruto dodged with inhuman speed, his reverse curse technique flaring to heal a shallow cut from a near miss. He countered with a claw strike, raking the swordsman's arm, blood spraying as muscle tore. The swordsman screamed, dropping his blade, and Naruto grabbed his wrist, triggering a powerful slash that severed the arm cleanly. The kunoichi unleashed water release, torrent bullet, a barrage of high-pressure water spheres. Naruto slid under the attack, claws digging into the wet rock, and flicked his wrist, sending dismantle. The invisible slashes shredded the kunoichi's legs, her cries echoing as she fell. Naruto rushed her, delivering a knee strike to her jaw, shattering bone. The taijutsu specialist roared, charging with a flurry of chakra-enhanced punches. Naruto met him head-on, blocking with one arm, slashing with another, and grappling the ninja's neck. A spinning elbow smashed into the ninja's skull, and Naruto finished with a decisive strike, ending the fight. The head rolled into the ravine, the heaven medallion now in Naruto's possession. Blood dripped from his claws as he pocketed the medallion, his laughter chilling the fog. He felt a sense of accomplishment, eager for more challenges. Naruto scaled a crumbling cliff, rock slides threatening to bury him, when he spotted 3 IW genin huddled in a cave, clutching an earth medallion. Their earth-based jutsu had carved a defensive perimeter, but Naruto's arrival shattered their confidence. He commented on their cozy setup, his crimson eyes glowing through the rain. The demolitions expert hurled earth release, explosive clay, chakra-infused bombs shaped like birds. Naruto dodged with acrobatic flips, the explosions shaking the cliff. A stray blast grazed his arm, blood trickling, but his technique healed the wound instantly. Naruto retaliated with dismantle, the slashes detonating the remaining clay midair, shrapnel raining down. The genjutsu user cast Earth Mirage, distorting the cave into a maze of stone illusions. Naruto's enhanced senses pierced the trick, tracking the user's chakra. He rushed through the illusions, claws slashing the user's chest, blood spraying as ribs cracked. A powerful strike split the ninja vertically, leaving chaos in the cave. The spear wielder lunged with Earth Release, Stone Lance, his weapon hardened by chakra. Naruto parried with his claws, sparks flying, and grappled the spear, snapping it with a twist. He slammed the ninja into the cave wall, a claw strike tearing through his shoulder. The ninja's desperate punch landed, bruising Naruto's ribs, but his technique mended the damage. With a swift motion, Naruto ended the fight, the Earth Medallion falling into a pool of blood. Naruto snatched the medallion, his four-armed silhouette towering as the cave trembled. He felt exhilarated, ready for whatever came next. Naruto navigated a waterfall-choked chasm, the roar of water masking his approach. Three Genin stood on a rocky outcrop, their heaven medallion hidden in a sealed scroll. The sensory ninja detected Naruto's cursed energy and shouted a warning, but it was too late. He leaped from the waterfall, ready for action. The bubble user cast Water Release, Bubble Blitz, launching chakra-infused bubbles that exploded on contact. Naruto wove through the blasts, determined to claim victory. RCT healed the wounds and countered with Dismantle, slashes popping the bubbles and cutting the user's arms, causing her to scream. Naruto rushed in, delivering a powerful strike that knocked the wind out of her. The sensory ninja threw Water Release, Mist Veil, shrouding the area in dense fog to disrupt Naruto's senses. However, Naruto's crimson eyes glowed as he tracked the ninja's chakra. He tackled the ninja, claws digging into his back, and the ground became soaked. The ninja's kunai grazed Naruto's shoulder, but RCT sealed the wound instantly. Naruto followed up with an elbow strike to the ninja's skull, causing a loud crack. The dagger fighter attacked with Twin Fang Strike, dual daggers flashing. Naruto blocked with his claws, sparks flying, and countered with a knee to the ninja's stomach, causing him to cough. He grappled the ninja's arms, twisting them until a sharp crack echoed. A powerful strike severed the ninja's torso diagonally, and a scroll fell to the ground. Naruto grabbed the scroll, his laughter echoing through the waterfall as he declared that he was halfway there and that it was too easy. Naruto reached a storm-lashed plateau, lightning panthers prowling nearby, when he spotted three rain genin guarding an earth medallion. His grin widened, sensing the chance to unleash his flames. He demanded the medallion, threatening to burn them if they refused. The barrier specialist dictated Water Release, Rain Dome, a shimmering barrier of water to deflect attacks. Naruto tested it with Dismantle, slashes carving ripples but failing to break through. The Poison Mist user unleashed Poison Mist Cloud, a toxic fog that stung Naruto's skin. RCT neutralized the poison, healing the burns, and Naruto charged through the mist, claws ready. The chain-wielding Kunoichi lashed out with Chain Storm, chakra-infused chains whipping toward Naruto. He dodged with acrobatic spins. Naruto grabbed the chain, yanking the Kunoichi forward. His claws slashed her arms, and a dismantle cut her horizontally, causing chaos around her. The Poison Mist user retaliated with Poison Needle Barrage, chakra-infused needles laced with venom. Naruto deflected most with his claws, but one pierced his thigh, causing a sharp pain. RCT expelled the poison, healing the wound, and he retaliated with Dismantle, slashes tearing into the ninja's chest. Naruto grappled the ninja's neck, delivering a powerful strike that incapacitated him. The barrier specialist reinforced the Rain Dome, desperation in his eyes. Naruto's eyes glowed brighter, his cursed energy surging. He raised his hand, and divine flame erupted, a roaring inferno of crimson fire that incinerated the barrier in seconds. The specialist was engulfed in flames, and the earth medallion fell, scorched but intact. Naruto pocketed the medallion, the plateau now a smoldering ruin. His laughter rang out, the storm trembling as he celebrated his victory. In the epilogue, Naruto stood atop the plateau, remnants of battle clinging to him, his crimson eyes scanning the horizon. The Black Mountain summit loomed ahead, but more genin teams lurked below, their medallions calling to him. His cursed energy pulsed, his claws dripping, his aura a storm of its own. Inside, a flicker of Naruto's old self stirred, guilt for the destruction, worry for Sasuke and Sakura, but Sukuna's voice drowned it out, urging for more chaos. He muttered to himself about continuing the hunt, his grin returning as he leaped into the storm, a crimson blur, with echoes of chaos following in his wake.